Picture of a happy family. A man and a woman hand a small, dark-haired child to a blue-haired girl. She hesitantly picks him up because she doesn't know what to do and is afraid that he will get hurt. However, she is reassured that he will be fine, she just needs to hold her neck with her hands. From now on, this boy is a member of their family, so the dark-haired girl asks the blue-haired one to take care of him. A special event. A man in a suit represents the winner of this year's Daikush Manga Award, the author of the manga Revenge Match, which has sold more than 50 million copies. Kamishiro Akira-sensei, a dark-haired man, in a suit and raincoat, walks up to the stage. He never stopped trying to reach the top. He debuted at the age of 18, and his first manga sold 1 million copies and even received a film adaptation. Soon he gained popularity, and he was called the author of the century. On the way to the top, Akira became tougher towards his assistant. He often yelled at her to just quit if she couldn't do the job. His friends took offense at him because they thought he only thought of people as tools. Even the girl left him, because not everyone can live like him, but he never regretted anything. He was successful, which means he was right. That's what he always thought. How wrong he was. The thought had never crossed his mind, but this idea never occurred to him. But one day he finds himself in the doctor's office, who explains that the disease that Akira was found to have is called true polycythemia. With this disease, the number of red blood cells increases and blood circulation is disrupted. Simply put, it's a blood cancer. A man is driving his car around the city at high speed. He remembers the doctor saying that, fortunately, compared to other types of tumors, he can get better if he receives the right treatment. Many people live to be at least 10 years old. Gripping the steering wheel, Akira grits her teeth, muttering, 10 years, that's a lot to take off your shoulders. He's starting to cry. He exclaims in despair that he is only 29 years old, damn it. A nice nurse explained to him that he needed to undergo a thorough examination, so she asks him to come with his family during the next visit. And in that moment, Akira realized that he was desperately denying the fact that he was all alone. He has a mother who thinks only of money. There are no friends who could have gone to the hospital with him. And there isn't even a girl who would be sad if he died. He bangs his head against the steering wheel in frustration. All this time, he was wrong. The life he's lived up to this point. He realized that all his life he had been captivated by external success, and from this, his life lost its meaning. Suddenly, his phone rings. Akira presses the call acceptance button. This is his mom. Irritated, he asks what it is this time. His mom replies a little awkwardly that she has a problem. His mother explains that she has nothing to pay rent. Can he throw her 100,000? However, at this moment, the young man hears Pachinko's games. He grits his teeth. Akira asks why she always comes to him with such requests. However, his mother calmly replies that this is not such a large amount for him. Then Akira decides to tell her that he was in the hospital today. She asks him, slightly unconcerned, if he has any pain. With tears in his eyes, he confesses that he has cancer and he can have a few more years. In his mind, he pleads with his mother for help. Surprised, she asks him what he means by that. The young man continues he was asked to come with his family to undergo the procedure. He asks her to come with him. He is really very scared. His mother agrees. She will go with him, but immediately asks if he can transfer 100,000 to her. She really needs it. Akira freezes. Even at times like this, she's more worried about money than about her only son, her only family. Mom tries to get through to him, but he suddenly whispers into the phone that she just died. Akira is hysterical and yells at her to just go die with her pachinko. He can't believe how shitty his life is. Akira continues to drive furiously, but suddenly his eyes snap open. Suddenly, a woman and a little girl appear in front of his car. He immediately jerks the steering wheel to the side in fright, so as not to crash into people. Memories of his mom showing him the latest issue of the manga he wanted flash through his mind. She holds it out to him with a smile, and the boy whispers that he loves her. Akira watches from the sidelines. In the course of his life, he forgot what he really wanted. A peaceful place for himself. Without realizing it for the rest of his life, the first peaceful place for him, oddly enough, was death. Akira's eyes widen in shock, not understanding what's going on. It's suddenly so dark, and he doesn't know where he is right now. He remembers crashing into an electric pole. Then he exclaims in concern, "What happened to the mother and child?" Suddenly, a strange screen appears next to Akira, floating in the air. On this screen it says that his life is over. Akira's eyes widen in shock. Then he's right, he's really dead. Then another message appears on the screen, which asks him to choose a mother, to start a new life. He freezes in surprise, not understanding what that means for a while, and then there's a flicker of admiration in his eyes. Several photos appear in front of him on huge screens. These are 5 different girls of different types. He stares at the screens in surprise. The first dark-haired girl with a proud look is Ursula Stormheim. If he chooses her, then he will have the life of a royal. Another girl with a ponytail is Victoria Venaris. Then he will have the life of a millionaire. The other elf girl is Fatima Yggdrasil. Then he will live the life of an immortal. Akira must choose one of these women in order to reincarnate. He exclaims in shock. Akira exhales in disbelief. So this is reincarnation in another world, to think that it really exists. And so that he can't blame his parents, this time they even let him choose for himself. Akira thinks, Katja Gardenberg is an aristocrat. Then he will live the life of a holy sword. Rich family. He exhales. All the candidates stuffed with a bunch of high stats. If he chooses one of these mothers, wealth and fame are guaranteed from the very beginning. This is life with a guarantee of success. Akira grits her teeth. He exclaims in despair, he's had enough of this. All he got out of this fame and fortune was loneliness. Akira is finally free from this kind of life, and do they really want him to fall back into this hell of success? He only wants a quiet place to relax, and that's all. Only a normal life he wants. And he notices among the candidates a dark-haired girl with soft eyes. This is a commoner, a girl from a magic shop. Was this the answer to his plea? Nothing is said about her husband. Her name is Diva Roland. His hand unconsciously reaches out to her. Akira doesn't remember the details of her profile, but she's different, she has a soft smile, and it feels like she's telling him something. It's like she's saying welcome to him. In the end, he chooses Diva Roland as his mother. It's also mysterious, the relationships of people, who makes the decision, and where it all starts. It's as if he sees his mother's life before he was born, how she met the blonde boy as an adventurer, how they fell in love, and how her son was born afterward. After his birth, both his mother and father are very happy. They watch their sleeping son with loving eyes and thank him for being born. 7 years later, Stormheim, the royal capital. People are walking along the streets. Destination Rainford's magic shop. A man buys 2 scrolls of healing for 2 gold coins. He says a friendly goodbye, promising to come again. The woman and the boy smile brightly and thank him. The boy's name is Akira Rainford. This year he turns 7 years old. His mom thanks him for his help during busy hours, and now he can go play. She smiles and asks me to leave the store to her. This is Diva Rainford, maiden name Roland, now 26 years old and Akira's mom. Akira replies that there is no need. His father asked him to look after his mother while he was in the guild, so Akira won't leave her alone until her father returns. Diva smiles sweetly. Akira is still such a child. She hugs the boy tightly, holding him close. He's just a kid, and he's already saying things like that. Akira seems to love her very much, so the diva will also give him a lot of love. The boy smiles sheepishly. He still has some memories from his previous life. Akira destroyed his life in the pursuit of success so much that fear and loneliness still remain vivid for him. Then a man comes into the shop. This is Akira's father, Kaliningrad Rainford, who is 29 years old. He lifts his son up, asking with a smile if he was protecting his mom properly. So despite the memories, Akira tries not to stand out and remain mediocre. No one wants it to be successful. Even so, he has a family that loves him. This was the kind of place he was really looking for. This is the one thing Akira doesn't want to lose. Suddenly, the father announces that he has bought the boy a cake. He hands him a small piece on a plate. Suddenly, a voice is heard reminding me that there are no sweets. Akira turns around resignedly. She has found happiness in this house, but there is one obstacle. And this obstacle is maid Arya. She reminds me that there are no pre-dinner snacks. Carl mutters resignedly that it's all a piece here. However, Arya strongly states that this hinders education. She reminds me that Akira missed his fencing class today. During the class, Arya once again defeats Akira and asks if he has guessed yet to understand. The girl reminds him that he needs to parry without relying on force. Akira tearfully exclaims, "How can a 7-year-old child even understand this? He also has a talent for the sword." Arya adds that she also has 0 talent for magic. The boy exclaims in resignation. The only obstacle to a happy life is the maid Arya, who has been living with them since the boy was born. He doesn't know anything about her except that she's an elf of unknown origin. In addition, she is proficient in magic, sword techniques, and also excels at housework. That she is a skilled maid is beyond question, but the problem is, in Akira's opinion, she sees him as an enemy. Arya orders the boy to stand up and hit her. If he couldn't do it, then she would eat the cake that Carl had bought. Akira exclaims, "How cruel! Does she really want to steal a cake from a 7-year-old?" In the end, Akira is defeated again. In desperation, he makes a mental note that he knows why she hates him. Akira is sure that this woman likes his father Carl. Arya thinks she's hiding it well, but his eyes can't fool an adult. From her point of view, his existence is the same as proof of love between the man she likes and another woman. Doesn't she get annoyed every time she sees Akira? Huffing with anger, he mentally resents her bullying him about it. That's just when he grows up. Once he grew up, he would immediately reveal the identity of this elf. He would throw her out of the house by doing both. Akira gives a malicious grin. Arya attacks him again. She doesn't know what unholy thoughts are running through his head, but they're having a magic lesson right now. Arya orders him to write healing spells on all 5 scrolls. The deadline is by morning. If Akira doesn't have enough magic, then let her learn how to make scrolls. If he can't do it by tomorrow, he'll be out of sweets. The young man is completely exhausted, sitting on the bed surrounded by empty scrolls. What is a scroll? In this world, it is an ordinary item that can store magic power. The magician only needs to write down the spell and give it magic. It will take about 2 hours to write the scroll alone. Arya wants a 7-year-old to sit up all night with all these scrolls? She won't get it. In addition, they use their cheating power. Akira takes out a quill. Even though he didn't have any talent for sword or magic, he still wanted to help his father. Akira thought about creating scrolls with a bit of magic and got carried away with it for a long time. And one day it dawned on him, there is a cheat. Even writing ordinary magic takes several hours. Surprisingly, he can achieve the same effect if he just draws. Akira can achieve the same effect as written scrolls. The healing magic scroll is complete. And he doesn't write, but draws. The scrolls themselves contain magic, and he, with his own amount of magic, is able to create them. That way, these 5 scrolls wouldn't even take him 10 minutes. Then the thought occurred to him. Can he do more amazing things? The diva exclaims in fright when she sees the monster. Carl is surprised to see that it's slime. Arya is trying to deal with him at this point. Akira is asked to stay there behind the tree. It's just a coincidence that he summoned a living monster. Not on a small scroll, but in an open space. This was his experiment. Akira drew an empty magic circle on the surface of the water and drew a monster inside. And he materialized. You can't actually materialize a life from a scroll, but it can be materialized with a magic circle created by it. Can this be called something like summoning magic? Akira doesn't quite get it, but this is an incredible cheat. A force capable of revolutionizing the world, like Akira Kamashiro's talent, which has influenced millions of people. The chosen one, with an unusual talent, always has to pay a high price. And Akira was tired of this talent. It will hide it. Since threatening his normal life is such a dirty ability. Arya sternly replies that she wasn't convinced. She orders him to make a scroll here and now because he can do it. Carl awkwardly clarifies that their son didn't do his homework. However, Arya replies that he did it perfectly. But the problem is that Akira handled it too quickly. Her words make the boy's parents' eyes widen in surprise. Besides, the formula in the scroll is too perfect. Akira copied it with a pen? Still, the healing effect is excellent. Akira went to bed early yesterday, so when did he create them? The boy mentally curses. He needed to focus on one scroll. Akira awkwardly replies that he woke up early. With a sinister smile, Arya asks him to repeat, if he can. It's early in the morning. He was asleep, but he still managed to finish. It's impossible. The only thing that comes to mind is that you prepared the scroll beforehand and copied it. Arya doesn't blame him for his lack of abilities, but she wouldn't forgive him for lying. Arya screams at him to tell her how he did it. Akira's eyes widen. It's like he's going back in time when he was told to work harder. Can't he cheat a little? Is it wrong to work harder? Was it his fault that they hadn't chosen her? Why was she trying to push him into this hell again? Someone like her would be better off disappearing. He screams in frustration and runs away. They try to stop Akira, but he keeps running away. It resorts to a small lake with waterfalls, the lake that Akira always visits when he's feeling down. He's getting much better here. The boy wonders what excuse he can come up with. For example, does it have an imitation? It doesn't fit. Akira continues to observe the peaceful nature by the lake. Still, he'd said too much. This is the first time he's seen Arya look so confused. He scratches his head uncomfortably. I should go back and apologize without Arya. However, suddenly Arya covers him with her body. Just when the monster was about to attack him, she throws the boy aside. Akira's eyes widen in shock. He sees that the girl in front of him is badly injured. Akira looks up and sees a huge monster. It's a force basilisk. The monster attacks again, but Arya pushes the boy aside again. She screams at him to run away. Basilisk grabs the girl by the hair, lifting her off the ground. Arya whispers that it's mating season for the monsters, and they need food. She will be the bait while the boy runs away. Akira can't believe it. Did she come because of him? She hates him. Through the pain, Arya answers what nonsense he's saying. They're family, and she's watching over him. It was only natural that she would protect him, so he needs to run as fast as possible. Akira is dumbfounded. How could he stay so stupid all this time? Remembering his parents' disappointed faces, Akira finally realized it. Arya isn't like the editors who just push them around. She's really strict. But Arya is always there to protect him. She shouts again for him to run away. Akira stands up slowly. Arya was only trying to raise him properly. The girl doesn't understand what he's doing. He needs to run away. However, Akira refuses. He decided that he would definitely protect his peaceful place. And one of these places is Arya. Akira summons the canvas. Arya notices an empty magic scroll, not understanding what it's going to do. Akira wonders what he should draw to make sure he gets out of this mess. Before him is a basilisk, so it will copy and materialize it. Arya watches in surprise as another figure gradually materializes next to Basilisk. Akira sends him on ahead. His drawing is complete. A basilisk materializes in front of them. Arya wonders if he really has summoning magic. At some point, Akira feels that something is wrong with his consciousness. His magic isn't enough. He grits his teeth. He won't lose. Compared to the hell of his previous life, it's too easy. You can't just take it. This is the spirit of a professional. Akira's basilisk wins. After the battle, Akira falls exhausted to the ground. He did it. He saved Arya. His basilisk is slowly disappearing. The defeated monster finally disappears into the water. Arya walks over to him. He has their blood in his veins. No talent for either magic or the sword. But who knew that such power was hidden in his body? She leans toward the unconscious boy. Arya picks him up. He's the child of Diva and Carl. When Akira wakes up, his mother is sitting next to him with tears in her eyes. He was in a coma for 3 days due to the exhaustion of magic. His mother was restless with worry. She hugs him tightly, wailing that she will never forgive this bat. It sucked all the magic power out of him. Don't let Akira worry. His father will deal with him. He gathered a squad for this. Everything will be fine. Akira glances at Arya, glad she's okay. But he doesn't understand, what kind of sewer bat is this? Did Arya hide that he used a hidden skill? Arya reveals that Carl gave him an elixir to drink, as he lost consciousness due to the exhaustion of magic. Not every adventurer can get it. It's extremely rare. In addition, the diva did not sleep for 3 days. They watched over Akira and supported her with their magic. He was very lucky to have such wonderful parents. Yes, they were very worried about Akira's selfishness. Arya approaches the diva, who is wiping her eyes from crying, and notes that everything is fine now and she can go and rest. The boy mentally notes that in this life, he promised himself to be a good son. Just then, Carl bursts into the room, shouting that the gutter bat is nowhere to be found. After the attack, there was no trace left. Suddenly, it freezes. Carl immediately approaches his son, who is woken up, and Akira apologizes for making him worry. Carl replies that he doesn't need to apologize, he's glad he's okay. After a moment, Carl becomes extremely sleepy and freezes. Diva runs up to him, worried. Carl passed out on his feet! Arya mumbles that it's impressive, he's lasted so long without resting. Akira also exclaims in fright. Night falls. Akira is sleeping in her room. When the magic power drops to 0, death occurs. It's like starving to death. He was saved thanks to the elixir and his mother, but he still feels like his body is being torn apart. Suddenly, Arya walks into his room. The boy looks at her, confused. She confesses that she heard him moaning in pain and came to check on him. It looks like he's still having trouble circulating magic due to exhaustion. She reaches out to touch his forehead, but Akira hides behind the blanket, causing her to freeze in surprise. Arya notices that his face is burning. She'll call the diva. Akira reassures her that he's fine and doesn't need to call anyone. Plus, his mom hasn't slept in 3 days, and he doesn't want to burden her anymore and bother her. Arya thinks for a moment, then moves closer. She lies down next to him and hugs him. The elixir that Akira drank not only restores magic power, but also increases its maximum limit. It will take some time for his body to adapt. So tonight, Arya will help him with the circulation of magic in his body. Akira shyly wonders why his heart is beating so fast. He had never seen Arya like this. Why now? He remembers how she tried to sacrifice herself to save him, but Arya's warmth is so soothing. Suddenly, Akira apologizes to Arya. She loved his father, didn't she? Akira knows that she suppressed her feelings and cared about him. He didn't want to acknowledge her feelings and tried to embarrass her in front of Carl. It must have been hard for her to see a diva bring a smile to Carl's face, and so did he. So Akira asks for her forgiveness again. Arya is silent for a while, then turns to the boy. She claims that she had no intention of becoming Carl's woman. Akira's eyes widen in shock. Akira immediately exclaims, but she takes her eyes off his father. Arya reminds him that they've been together since he was born. The boy remembers how she carefully washes his father's laundry. The maid replies that she also washes Diva's underwear carefully. Akira recalls that he has a life experience. Slightly awkwardly, Arya clarifies, does he have the experience of being a 7-year-old? The boy has nothing to say to that. Arya doesn't understand where Akira got this misunderstanding, but she respects Carl as an employer and friend, but she never wanted to be with him. Akira pauses, embarrassed. This is so embarrassing. But then Arya makes him even more embarrassed when she tells him that she was thinking of becoming his. Carl is a wise and well-respected magician. He would never want to possess Arya as an imperfect vessel. But Akira is different, one of a kind that everyone, be it a country or a nation, would like to have. He's a summoner. And besides, Akira summoned a basilisk when he was 7 years old. Among summoners, he is the only one. I wonder how skilled he will become when he focuses on his cultivation. Arya will be looking forward to it. Like a god-given power. Perhaps Akira will become a great genius worthy of owning her, Malaria. The boy looks at Arya awkwardly. And again, something is expected of him. If this continued, Arya would be able to guess that he had reincarnated. He would have to hide the reason for having the power. Arya asks why he has been hiding his power all this time. Summons are extremely rare. So rare that they are treated like nobles. If the kingdom finds out about his existence, huge children, status and fame are guaranteed. But obviously this one comes at a price. Akira freezes. This is his chance. He begins to explain why he hid his power. Akira admits that she doesn't want to be separated from her mom and dad because of her strength. His dream is to inherit the shop when he grows up, but if he becomes a royal magician, he will lose his freedom for the rest of his life, devoting himself to the royal family. Akira wants to inherit the shop anyway, so he didn't tell Arya about it. He asks her not to tell anyone about this. Arya notes that he has thought it all out so well she needs to consult with Carl. Akira exclaims, did she hear what he was saying? Arya notes that Akira is still a child, and his future should be decided together with his parents. As a servant, she can't keep secrets from them. The boy is doomed to realize that his quiet life has come to an end. She notices Akira's look of resignation and adds, if Arya becomes Akira's woman and stops being a servant, then his wishes will take priority. The boy looks at her in surprise. It's probably a little late to ask what she means by a woman. Is she going to change her employer? Arya quietly replies that instead of being a servant, she could be his soulmate. She would be his partner for life and protect him. Akira freezes in surprise, realizing her words, and then mentally exclaims, isn't this a marriage? Is she proposing to a 7-year-old? But he seemed to understand her train of thought. Arya wants to make him an absurd offer, which he refused, and she told her parents everything. Then he would catch her off guard. Akira loudly agrees to be partners. Akira seriously declares that when he grows up, he will marry Arya. Arya asks in surprise, and Akira immediately exclaims in embarrassment, did he misunderstand again? She replies that if Akira doesn't mind, she agrees. Akira smiles contentedly, the cross is closed. They make an oath on their little fingers. Until Akira becomes an adult, the fact that he is a summoner and that they will marry remains a secret. Akira notes that it was simple. If she tells his parents that he is a summoner, the marriage is cancelled. Arya nods. Morning comes. Arya asks if he is ready. Today they will test his summoning skills. All summoners make a contract with the summoners. And Arya has always wondered how it works. She asks how he was able to make a contract with the basilisk. There was no way the monsters would follow someone below their level. The boy scratches his cheek awkwardly. Since she's seen him, he can show her. Akira awkwardly asks, what is the contract? Arya is surprised and asks him to stop joking, but the boy replies that he didn't have any contract with the basilisk. Arya doesn't understand how summoning is possible without a contract. Akira explains that she collects magic at her fingertips and presents an image of the person she wants to summon. The drawing is complete, and slime appears in front of them. Arya is surprised to admit that he can summon without a contract. Arya offers him support with her magic. If Akira doesn't have enough magic, then she will help her own. She opens the book and asks if he can summon it. This is an advanced golem. Akira will have a hard time imagining how it works. Summoning a golem is quite difficult due to its low efficiency, as golems have an innate resistance to magic power. Arya points out that even though he doesn't sign a contract, it's difficult to succeed in summoning a golem. How? She notices that he is drawing something and asks what he is doing. A battle strategy? Akira shakes her head. It's just a rough sketch. It's been a habit since he was a mangaka. With a sketch, Akira has a higher chance of luck. In the case of the basilisk, he was just hoping for luck. Finally, he understands everything and asks Arya to support him with her magic. It calculates the approximate size of the canvas. He will do everything as he did when he summoned the basilisk. Drawing completed. Advanced golem. A huge stone golem appears in front of them. Arya is surprised. He did it even without a contract. It's impossible. He's not a genius. He's on a completely different level and defies the laws of this world. Arya suddenly realizes that they will definitely try to kill Akira. The boy turns to her and thanks her for her help with magic, but notices her murderous expression. Did he show too much? Arya knew it wasn't summoning magic. She can't even imagine how much trouble this power will bring him. Arya puts her hands on his shoulders and asks him to swear that until she fully understands his power, he must not tell anyone about it. She must protect him until Akira can fend for herself. They stare at each other for a while, and Akira replies with a smile that of course it's their secret. It turned out even better than he expected. It's a secret until he gets older. He hopes Arya keeps her promise too. Akira gets hit in the head again with a wooden sword. Arya is surprised that he fell after that. The boy tries to crawl away, but he doesn't understand what it all means. Arya knows he has a penchant for magic, so why is she tormenting him with sword lessons? She reminds me that they agreed. They agreed that Akira would forget about summoning techniques and focus on swordsmanship. The boy jumps up in shock and shouts that he will succeed. Diva and Carl don't understand when they got along so well. Akira lies on the grass, trying to catch her breath. Arya had said that she would pretend that nothing had happened, but hadn't she made it 3 times more difficult? She doesn't mind keeping a secret, but what's the point if she kills him during training? Why would she do that? Until he learns? Training is good, but he prefers not to get injured. He takes out a canvas and draws an elixir. Akira lets out a sigh of relief. He smiles contentedly. Full HP and MP recovery, plus maximum backup. The elixir completely restores HP and MP and increases their maximum limit. An ordinary person will be incredibly lucky if they come across this elixir. But Akira can create it as much as she wants by drawing items. This elixir reminds him of energy drinks. He drank them in his previous life. But this invigorating feeling is on a different level compared to conventional energy drinks. He is also curious about the MP limit increase. He didn't feel any changes, but don't worry. He raises the sword above him and says the word secret technique for increasing magical powers, wood-splitting dance. Akira puts the sword down on the log. The sword gets stuck, and the boy tries unsuccessfully to pull it out. He curses softly. The effect of the elixir is just a scam. Suddenly a voice is heard nearby, pointing out that swordsmanship has nothing to do with magic. Akira turns around in surprise. The voice calls the boy weak because he can't split wood. Suddenly, a little girl appears next to him, who asks with interest what he was doing with that scroll. Akira realizes that she scared the hell out of me. He didn't even know when she was behind him. But the problem was, had she seen him draw on the scrolls? The red-haired girl notes that this is the first time she has seen such a technique. She calls him baby and asks if he's a magician. Akira notes that the girl has a sword and a scabbard and a silk scarf. Is she an aristocrat? Akira purses her lips, looking like she's a problem person. He explains that all he did was use the recovery scrolls. However, the girl remembers that he drew something that looked like a bottle. He urgently needs to change the subject, so the boy explains that she got something wrong. Besides, she is also a baby and has no right to call him that. The red-haired woman laughs loudly. He sounds just like an old man, and he's a very interesting kid. Akira smiles, having managed to change the subject. He asks about her age. The girl replies that she turned 7 this year. Akira furiously exclaims that he also turned 7 this year. Why is she bothering commoners, and why does she call him baby? The red-haired woman calmly replies that he is not tall, so she thought he was younger. She scratches the back of her head uncomfortably. She had no idea that he was a commoner. She says she's sorry. Akira waves it off, looking like she's an aristocrat with common sense. The main thing was that he managed to avoid the topic of the elixir. He would have to change his tone. He was a commoner after all. Akira also asks for forgiveness. He also slightly screwed himself up. The red-haired one calls him an honest kid. She asks if he needs help with the wood. Akira clarifies, do aristocrats also chop wood? He asks her not to overdo it. Besides, Akira doesn't just chop wood. He trains in fencing. The girl nods and gives him some advice. First, a sword is very different from an axe, in that the center of gravity is at the handle. It shows you how to hold a sword properly. It is quite difficult to explain in words, so the girl asks him to throw up that log. Akira picks it up and throws it in her direction. A girl in the air cuts a log in half with her sword. Akira looks at her admiringly. How did it happen? He didn't even see her draw her sword. And what are these dance-like movements? This is a sword dance that even Arya can't do. You can immediately see that she is a master. Are all aristocrats like that? He exhales admiringly. Although she is a girl, she is very skilled with the sword. She smiles and notes that he's quite entertaining. And then he remembers that he didn't introduce himself. His name is Metis Blinstered, and he is the son of Count Blinstered, recently Lord of Stormheim. He hasn't settled in yet, so he's looking for a friend to show him around. Akira gradually realizes that this is a boy, not a girl. He exclaims in shock. Metis looks at him in surprise. To whom he just does not fit. He is mistaken for a girl. He asks if Akira really bothers the aristocrats. Akira tries to justify herself in embarrassment, saying that it's because Metis looks cute. And he corrects himself by shouting, that's not what he meant. Metis smiles and asks for his name. He's already introduced himself. It would be rude if the boy didn't introduce himself. Akira gives his name, adding that he is the son of the owner of a magic shop that is located in the city. Metis thinks about it. He notes with a smile that he is impressed that the son of the magic shop owner is practicing with a sword. Akira awkwardly explains that it's not that he likes it, but there's a small reason. Metis smiles and asks why Akira is so excited. Is it because he mistook him for a girl? Akira waves his hands awkwardly, wondering how he can get out of this situation without upsetting him. Metis punches him on the back and asks him not to worry. Akira touching her back, it was painful. Was it really bullying commoners after all? Metis goes on to say that he was unreasonably treating him like a toddler, so they can put that in the past. With a smile, the boy holds out his hand. Akira is the first person he met in this city, so he asks him to take care of him. This is also Akira's first meeting with an aristocrat, and he's more decent than he thought. He shakes Metis' hand awkwardly, glad to meet her too. With a bright smile, the aristocrat offers to meet here tomorrow at the same time. Akira will tell him about the city, and Metis will teach him swordsmanship. Akira mutters that this is still bullying commoners, but then corrects herself, calling it training. Metis exclaims that it's just a misunderstanding. Akira must not doubt the kindness of others. A few days later, Akira and Arya are washing in a tub. Akira asks him to let go, but the girl suggests that he first count to 100. Didn't the diva tell him? Akira confusedly mumbles that he's a kid, and he doesn't need to go that far. However, Arya notes that he is not a child. Akira agrees. He doesn't want to be treated like a child. Mentally, he notes that this is bad business. Arya is too perceptive. Akira shyly asks how long they'll be swimming together like this. What's the point? Arya asks him to keep counting. Isn't it wise to take a bath together to save firewood? Arya asks if the diva's coming soon. Akira says that's why he wants to get out of here first. He says he wants to wash himself, and he can do just fine without her. Arya asks if he has read the book she gave him. Akira was just about to ask her something. This book says that it is impossible to summon inorganic substances. What does this mean? The elf replies that everything is as written. He can make a contract with a living creature that has magic, but not with something that doesn't have a soul. It's just like a scroll has a magical effect, but not an item's effect. The boy mentally remembers that he also managed to create the elixir. As he thought, his abilities clearly stand out a lot. He'll have a hard time if it gets out. It looks like his peaceful life is under threat again. Arya asks if this book was useful. Akira replies that she was very helpful. Suddenly, Arya's ears move, hearing a sound. Akira recalls that there are a lot of monsters to summon in this book, with detailed explanations that could introduce them to him correctly, such as an ancient golem, an advanced golem, a middle-class golem. Arya offers to try summoning this guy as an experiment, but Akira resolutely refuses. The girl reminds him why she gave the book to him. Together they try to understand Akira's abilities. If he tries to summon a high-level creature alone and runs out of magic, Akira will die. Arya asks him to promise that he won't practice summoning without her. Akira agrees he still remembers that pain. Arya continues, unless Akira has the magic of a legendary hero. Frosted asks again in surprise. In the past, the goddess gave birth to a human. Created for war, an evolved human with the best swordsmanship and boundless magic, he was once called the god of war. He is the owner of red eyes, the symbol of the knight of the goddess. The strongest one that ever existed was the red-eyed hero. Just as Akira thought, there are also heroes here. Arya asks if Akira wants to be like him too. However, he resolutely refuses. This is definitely not about him. His dream is to become the head of a magic shop in the second generation. He smiles awkwardly and tries to leave. But suddenly the diva runs into the bathhouse. She apologizes with a smile for being late. She asks if Akira has learned to count to 100. Arya replies that he counted to 37. The diva sternly forces the confused boy to start over. However, Akira runs away and asks to let him get dressed first. Diva shouts that his head is wet. Then he runs into his father. He asks how his day went. The diva also greets Carl, who apologizes for leaving the store on her all day. She asks worriedly if something has happened in the merchant guild. Carl reveals that a devilish cult kidnaps children. This is speculation, but there is a reason for it. 2 children are missing. Earlier, a man with the symbols of the sect was arrested for attempting to kidnap a child. There are rumors that the cult uses children as victims. The diva sighs worriedly. Security measures have been stepped up in the city, but just in case, Carl asks Akira not to go to private places. Akira doesn't understand what this diabolical cult is. After a while, Metis and Akira practice swordsmanship. Metis has no problem stripping Akira of his sword. The boy immediately gives up. He can't even scratch him. The difference between their levels is too great, and so he asks if Metis wants to see the city. However, the boy replies that it is not good to skip training, and how much willpower Akira has. The boy replies awkwardly that that's not the point. He asks if the boy has ever heard of a devil cult. Metis exclaims indignantly, "A devil cult kidnaps children? It's a bunch of thugs!" Akira nods, so they'd better go home, so as not to disturb their parents. Akira turns to Metis and asks, is he not afraid of them at all? He's scared. He's just a commoner after all. When he was a child, there was nothing so scary. And he's not learning to wield a sword to take that risk. Suddenly, the half-breed asks if he's serious. Akira turns around in surprise. Metis gravely explains that his teacher said that strong people also have no less responsibility. If he is not willing to take responsibility for others, then why is he trying to master the sword? Akira immediately remembers her past. Because he is talented, it is his responsibility to show results. Metis, teacher is just like the shits who used it in their previous lives. Has he ever wondered what will remain after he continues to bear the burden of responsibility until the very end? If a talented person exhausts himself and falls down dead, won't it all be in vain? Metis is stunned into silence. He lowers his head and replies that he will go home first. Akira is trying to stop him. Did he really make him angry? He's such a fool. No matter how strong an aristocrat he is, he's still a child after all. He calls out again, awkwardly. He calls out to Metis again, but he suddenly disappears. Akira doesn't know where he's gone, and then he smells something sweet, and he suddenly felt sleepy. He recalls the words of his parents, who asked him not to go to secluded places. They recall the words of Arya, who asked them to practice with the sword closer to home. He had intended to do so, but he thought about telling Metis about it. He opens his eyes wide and notices that he is in some kind of cell full of kids. His hands and feet are shackled, and Metis is also shackled next to him. He doesn't understand what this place is. Akira sees iron bars and hears a child crying. And he remembers the words of his father, who said that the devil cult uses children as victims. Akira's eyes widen in shock. There's no way he was actually abducted by a devil cult? Suddenly, he hears Metis muttering softly about not being able to fit into it anymore. He sits up and asks why Akira is in his bed. Akira awkwardly replies that he's not in his own bedroom. Finally, Metis is fully awake and aware of what has happened. He quickly looks around, not knowing where he is and also noticing other children. Akira cackles softly. Metis is too loud. It will scare the kids. Although initially Akira also panicked. He explains that they seem to have been abducted by a devilish cult. If this is a cult hideout, then they're in a very bad situation. There are no guards, but it's impossible to get out through this grate. Akira wonders if she can use drawing to summon a golem. Then he will be able to break the bars, but there is a chance of being buried alive if he does so. He remembers Arya's request that he never show his ability to anyone else. Of course, Akira wants to hide these abilities, but this is a life-threatening situation. Abilities can try to hide under the guise of a summoning spell. Metis nods. I see, so this is the home of a cult. This is only to his advantage. They will break out, so he suggests that Akira destroy this place and save all the children. The boy is taken aback. He asks him to wait. This is not some aristocratic game, this is reality. This cult is a group of people who use children as sacrifices. And their weapons were taken away. They will not be able to defend themselves. Suddenly, the magic of flame flares up in Metis, palms burning pain. Akira watches, dumbfounded. This can't be happening. This child is not only a master swordsman, but can also use magic. Metis asks the boy not to be afraid. He will protect him, because this is the responsibility of the strong, and he will teach him this. Akira notices that Metis' left eye is red. He remembers what Arya said about the ultimate swordsman, the red-eyed one, the strongest one in existence. Akira grins and clenches her fists. He suspected he was crazy, but not that crazy. Akira realizes that Metis is a hero. Will they be able to escape from the devil cult? Akira realizes that this is an unexpected ace up her sleeve, and it seems that he will also have to summon a golem, because the strongest creature seems to be here. And they will be able to escape. Standing in front of Akira, Metis uses her magic to melt the bars on the cell. The grate melted like a candle. Akira exclaims in delight, "This is amazing!" Metis even uses magic. Isn't he just an ordinary aristocrat? The boy grins. He said he would protect him. An explanation can wait. Metis notes that he needs to hurry and asks Akira to stay close to him. Rescuing all the prisoners won't be easy. Akira nods with a smile. Great, he won't have to resort to drawing. However, as soon as they get out of the cage, people in raincoats immediately appear. They call out to them and ask indignantly, how did they get out of the cell? Bad thing, they were burned. Were these masked men really from a devil cult? Akira reminds Metis that this is a cult hideout, but the boy calms him down and asks him to stay behind him. Masked men form magic in their hands and speak words in an unknown language. Both masked men put their hands out and say the words Katis flame and immediately attack the children. However, Metis steps in front of Akira and covers him with herself and her magic. The cultists are stunned. Are these flame bullets? A child parries with a pillar of flame? What the hell? Metis takes a sharp leap forward toward the cultists. He jumps up and down, avoiding the attack. The enemies watch in surprise. This child can not only use magic, but he is also quite fast. Suddenly, the cultists notice that Metis has scarlet eyes. They can't believe it. The Metis are using the Katais flame again. Akira looks on, dumbfounded. Such power even with bare hands. Undoubtedly, they will definitely be able to escape this way. After Metis defeats his opponents, Akira turns to him, saying that it's just incredible. With such abilities, it's no wonder the boy is confident. With a smile, Metis suggests that we move on until the cult members have gathered. Akira agrees with him, clenching her fists in determination. Akira exclaims about running away from here, and Metis adds that they will also defeat the boss. Suddenly they stop talking and look at each other in surprise, and then exclaim indignantly. At this time in the city, Arya and the diva are sitting at the table with her face buried in the table. Arya asks her not to worry, because Carl and the guards are already searching. The diva looks up at her with a tearful face. Even if the guards have taken action, it proves the seriousness of the situation. The diva slams her hands down on the table in frustration. This is an unusual disappearance. What should she do? What if her child had actually been abducted by a cult? What if he's already out there, where they can't reach him? If something happens to Akira, she doesn't know what she'll do next. The diva falls into Arya's arms in despair. The maid tries to calm her down and asks her to believe in Akira. He is a wise child, and he is much wiser than they think. And Akira will definitely return unharmed. The boys freeze in front of each other. Metis asks with displeasure, "Did Akira just say to run just the two of us? Did he hear it?" Akira mentally berates himself. Beat the boss, what is he thinking? Akira mentally resents why Metis is thinking such nonsense. They don't even know how many enemies there are. Aloud, he awkwardly explains that he recognizes the aristocrat's outstanding strength. He might even be able to defeat the devil cult, but they don't understand what's going on at all. Attacking the enemy blindly is risky. It is better to run away and call for help from adults. Metis purses her lips in displeasure. Does Akira think he's going to lose control? Akira tries to change his mind, but Metis says, Akira didn't think of anything else. They'll run away and tell us about this hideout. Yes, they will be safe, but what about the captured children? What will happen to them? Akira's eyes widen when she realizes what Metis means. When help comes, will they just leave all the kids here after they escape, or will they have already covered their tracks? Akira lowers her head awkwardly, the latter more likely. Metis asks again about the escape. Did he hear her? Akira clenches his fists, and you can't even argue with his reasoning. Is this some noble problem of an aristocrat? In truth, Akira agrees with him. With his drawing and this boy's strength, maybe they can win. Aloud, he says that what Metis says is true. He thought superficially. But still, he asks the aristocrat to think again if they fight the cult and lose. If they fight the cult and lose, not only the captured children, but they will also die. Does Metis understand this? The aristocrat looks at Akira in a daze. A small altar, in front of which members of the cult stand. At the head of this altar is the head of the cult. Behind is a small lake, from which a fountain of power rushes up. At the top of the altar, a bright glow is heard, which illuminates everything around. There are children lying shackled, almost exhausted. The child's soul is small, but very pure. The head of the cult continues. How beautiful it is. The light of life that should have shone for decades, and the scene of energy transformation for him. No matter how much she looks, both awe and delight do not leave her. The two boys stand for a while, looking at each other in silence. Metis says he doesn't mind putting his life on the line for what he believes in. But Akira is right, he doesn't want others to be in danger. The dark-haired man lets out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the aristocrat turns around and shouts at Akira to run away. The boy is taken aback. Metis declares that he will deal with the cult himself. Akira tries to stop him, saying that he misunderstood and going alone is even more dangerous. He calls out to the nobleman once more, but the boy is already rushing forward. Akira and Metis approach the altar of the devil cult. They were lucky to see what was going on outside, and they could just get out of here. They are inside a huge limestone cave, and the coast is visible. Akira wonders if this is the north coast. It's not too far from the city, so we should run as soon as possible. But what is this disturbing feeling that bothers him? He sees a suspicious statue and an altar. This feeling can't be wrong. Suddenly, Metis grabs Akira's head and forces him to duck. They watch cautiously from behind the cliff. Some cultists carry children on stretchers. The case is rubbish. We need to hurry before they are noticed. Beside him, Metis mutters softly. This is truly unforgivable. Akira turns to look at him and sees that Metis is literally burning with rage, sacrificing children. This is the first time Metis has felt such anger. All of a sudden, Metis jumps up and yells at those heartless thugs to stop doing all this. He orders that the children be released immediately and that they repent to the goddess. Akira looks on, dumbfounded. Metis continues, otherwise he will take the place of the goddess and pass judgment on everyone. Akira mentally shouts, what is he doing? Metis only provokes enemies. Now they can't escape. Suddenly, the head of the cultists appears behind the boys. She asks why Metis is so serious, because he is a charming kitten. Metis forms a magic spell in her hands and tries to attack. There is a loud explosion. Metis grabs Akira's arm, and together they jump away from the explosion site. The head of the occultists is taken aback to note that the boy used silent fire magic. What an interesting little guest. They land nearby, and Metis asks Akira if he's hurt and can stand. He asks Akira to take care of the kids while he deals with these bastards. But suddenly, they are surrounded by representatives of the cult. They are not to be trifled with. And what can the two of them do? They point daggers at children. Metis no doubt attacks one of the cultists, knocking the sword out of his hands and then grabbing it. Metis' eye flashes scarlet, and a magic sword appears in his hands. The head of the cultists also notices his scarlet eyes. Akira mentally exclaims, is that a lightsaber? Are they in Star Wars? Other cultists also notice the scarlet eyes and the magic sword. They understand that this child is not normal. They are cursing loudly as Metis rushes to attack. Metis wounds one by one with her sword. After a while, he stands next to the defeated cultists. Others ask each other to take care of themselves. They cannot cope with the hero with magic alone. They are shouting for Lady Karames to come quickly. Where is she? Akira continues to sit dumbfounded on her lap, and Metis will finally figure it out. Metis grins, just as he thought. She's the boss here. He turns to the same girl in black and wearing a mask with one eye. Metis offers her a one-on-one battle with him. They only do what they do to make people suffer. Akira exclaims in shock, one-on-one? Metis is playing the hero. He needs to stop. They found a way out. Why would he? They can just run away from here and ask for help. The nobleman replies that he will leave it to Akira. Metis declares that she will never show her back to the enemy in front of the weak. Akira continues to stare at Metis in shock. Metis will show Akira that the right beliefs always win. His justice won't let them get away with it. The cult leader grins behind his mask. She laughs at his words. She's trembling all over. It's been a long time since she's been so excited. She feels a pure heart and an untainted soul. She asks to show her, an impure adult, her justice. Not far from them, a huge magic seal flashes. Metis and Akira turn around in shock. Why did this large magic circle suddenly appear? And then Metis finally realizes that the head of a magical cult did it. The cult leader grins. Metis not only ignored his friend's advice, but also attacked out of an immature sense of justice. Now she can make the best sacrifice for him. Karames will respond in full force to crush his justice. She smiles. She summons the feared one as a hero killer, which can negate the sword and flames. She summons a stone golem. A huge middle-class golem appears from the magic circle. Akira is startled to note that this is dangerous. The cult leader is also a summoner. She summoned a middle-class golem with ease. She is without a doubt a mage with a wealth of combat experience. Akira remembers Arya saying that summoners were very rare among mages at all times. Akira realizes that she is a very strong enemy, and Metis may lose. He turns to it. Since it has come to this, he will still have to use drawing. He turns his attention to Metis and sees his clenched teeth. And then Akira notices his haughty expression. They don't think they can handle them, do they? It turns out that heretics have become more formidable. He asks Akira not to worry. He would save them with magic. Akira exclaims admiringly, does he have any other tricks up his sleeve? Will Metis use another magic on a golem that isn't affected by fire magic? However, Metis denies this. He forms a magic sphere in his hands. The fact that golems are not affected by fire magic, Metis will dispel this stereotype with this surpassing all types of fire magic with the strongest magic. He casts a spell. He orders his magic to burn all enemies in the name of his spirit. The head of the cult says in surprise, is this really the highest fire magic? Metis summons the flaming phoenix. Akira looks at Metis in amazement. This is amazing magic. The boy turns around and asks the golem, well, how does it feel? How fire resistant is it? Metis turns around, just as Gorum attacks him. Akira's eyes widen in shock. The head of the golem laughs loudly. And this is the ultimate fire magic? Nothing like that. Does he call a bird-shaped firework a flaming phoenix? A magician turned into a phoenix himself, burning enemies to ashes. This is the true appearance of this magic. The golem grabs Metis' arms and lifts him off the ground. A child with his meager magic power can only copy his form. It's time to apologize. Metis grits her teeth, and he mutters to her not to say anything stupid. He won't apologize for anything. He would never give in to a hellspawn like her, even if he was killed. Akira mentally exclaims and asks him to stop, otherwise he will have to handle the whole situation himself. Now is not the time to show character. Akira asks for forgiveness and asks for Metis to be spared. Suddenly, a golem fist appears next to the aristocrat's head. The fist hits the boy in the face with all its force. And if so, he still didn't want to apologize? The head of the cult grins. He should have run away instead of bragging. Does he repent? Metis screams in pain. Akira tries to stop the head, reminding that Metis is just a child, so why is it so cruel? He turns to Metis and asks him to apologize. However, Metis grits his teeth. He said that he will not apologize, and he will not repent either. He wouldn't bow down to their vicious gang even if he was gonna die. Akira looks at Metis in shock. The head notes that such a kitten should be taught manners. The golem slaps the boy in the face again. She understands that his beautiful beliefs cannot be broken by pain. But adults have many ways to tame naughty kids. For example, instead of a bad child, punish his friend. If he had been an obedient boy, he would have saved his friend. And if he's stubborn, then there's no choice. The chapter asks him to remember it well. She asks him to remember the face of a friend who died because of his fault. The golem's hand quickly moves towards Akira. He realizes that there is no more time to hesitate, and he will have to counter his golem one way or another. But suddenly, Metis asks for forgiveness. Akira's eyes snap open. Metis continues that he did something wrong and apologizes for it, so she asks him not to hurt Akira. Akira looks at Metis, dumbfounded. Then the boy asks for forgiveness from him. He was right, he should have called for help. He was careless. Metis tearfully asks for his forgiveness again and wishes that at least he could somehow escape. He yells at Akira to run away as fast as possible and not think about him. He will apologize as much as the head wants, so he asks for his friend's life. Akira bites his lip. He admires Metis so much. Right now, he doesn't have tears of fear of death, but a sense of responsibility. Metis doesn't want to change her principles, but she can't do anything either. And she cries, because she feels guilty about him. Akira had once looked like him. He was in a hurry to take responsibility because of his talent, and pushed himself into a corner for the sake of success. He also hurt other people by putting pressure on them. He thought it was natural. But Metis wasn't like him. A man who was willing to sacrifice his life out of pride had given up his principles because of someone like him. And this is true nobility. Akira looks resolutely at her enemies. He turns to Metis and asks him not to apologize again. The head of the cult watches him in surprise. Akira continues, Metis wasn't wrong. True power isn't about hurting. This was the last him. He doesn't use real power for his own sake. He uses real power for the sake of other people. And Akira wanted to be like him. He forms a canvas in his hands. The head of the cult can't figure out what this square magic field is. Metis is also watching Akira in surprise. The boy has no guarantees that he will have all the strength for this, and yet, Metis has already been beaten, so there is no other way out. All hope is on the elixir that he drank then. To be sure to defeat a mid-level golem, Akira will draw an advanced golem. Metis' eyes widen in shock. Akira is a summoner mage? The head of the cult is also taken aback. Shorty has summoning magic, and even with his size? She opens her eyes wide in shock. Is this an advanced golem? It's not easy for even outstanding mages to make a contract with him. Is an advanced golem being summoned by a child? Who is he anyway? Akira remembers Arya saying that if he recklessly uses a high-level summon alone, he will use up all his magic power and die. And he suddenly feels that feeling when there isn't enough magic. He drank so much elixir, the amount of magic power should have increased, and it's still not enough? Then he wants to try summoning a middle-class golem. He recalls his past when one of his designs was rejected. He asked for mercy, because this is already happening for the 7th time. This is his first weekly magazine. He worked 3 days without sleep. He will be so blown away before the start of sales. However, the man replies that, one way or another, we need to make this design more minimalistic. Akira tries to explain that, then the original idea will not be the same. But the man sternly replies that he was told to draw manga, not pictures, and the rest is work for the pros. Bring it up to manga standards while retaining the unique features and appeal of the original. This is called reworking. In addition, it is necessary both to reach mutual understanding with the author and to give pleasure to readers. This is exactly the task of a professional. Akira bites her lip. Heck! Out of all the things, he remembered that injury from when he started working. He doesn't have enough magic power, so what? He's a pro. This canvas is his territory. He can't cheat. If the intended design goes beyond its capabilities, it means that it will simplify, while retaining the unique features of the original. The head of the cult does not understand what is happening. The light becomes brighter. She turns to the golem. How long will it stare? She orders him to tear the boy to pieces before he completes the summoning. Akira notices the golem's attack. Metis calls out to him, startled. The head of the cult exhales with relief, stopped. But all of a sudden she hears a young voice that notes that he's even freaked out. She's almost got him. But at the last moment, he made it. The idea was sudden. How to put it? It looks like he managed to remake it so that there was enough magic. Metis watches Akira with wide eyes. The boy wants to introduce the one he has summoned. A tall stone golem appears in front of them. Redesigned drawing completed. Advanced golem, Akira version. Metis and the head of the cultists open their mouths in shock. Summon such a creature at the age of 7? Who is Akira? Midis remembers their past, where the boy said that he was afraid because he was an ordinary person, remembers how he asked to call for help first. Akira was careful, even with his strength. Midis looks away. What a fool he's been. Metis watches Akira. How cool he is after all. The head of the cult shouts, "Take it easy with jokes. This can't be happening. Forcing a creature to change shape, even during summoning, is impossible." And this, in his opinion, is an advanced golem? Apart from the core, it's all empty. Even one hand. It's just absurd. She doesn't recognize it as a summoning creature in her life. Akira sighs wearily, having to make it thinner to get enough magic. It looks terrible, but even so, it's definitely an advanced golem. His advanced golem immediately launches a swift attack. Metis notices that Akira's golem wasn't aiming at the enemy golem. Akira remembers what his maid said: if you crush the summoner, the summoned creature will be neutralized. But first we need to keep Metis safe. He will soon run out of magic power, so you need to quickly disable the puppeteer. And then Metis can be safely taken from the immobilized, uncontrolled golem. Akira manages to take Metis safely. All that remains is to escape. He immediately shouts for them to run away quickly. However, suddenly the head of the cult blocks his way. Was he leaving already? The head of the cult is determined to play again. Akira looks at the head in fright. The puppeteer was not defeated. Bad business! The head continues to complain that she was careless, and he immediately set his sights on her. She calls him a devious boy. Chapter takes out the scroll and fully recovers. Does Akira know who the natural enemy of golems is? She didn't even think that she would be in a position to call him out in a fight with a child. From the magic circle, she summons the divine beast, Leviathan. Akira lets out a startled cry. Is it a strong water creature versus an earth golem? And it feels like it's definitely not below the advanced level. At first, she arrogantly thought of them as mere punks, so she only called them the average creature. Her Leviathan immediately launches a tsunami at Akira's golem. An earthen barrier appears in front of the golem, which covers its body. The head sneers, but the golem won't protect you from water attacks. However, suddenly Akira says that she should not think that the golem can only defend itself. Akira's golem launches a magic attack towards the cult leader's Leviathan. She exclaims in a dumbfounded voice, "Is that a destructive beam? This pile of rocks is really a real advanced golem. Did some kid really get a contract with him? Who is this kid?" Akira turns to Metis and asks him to leave the golem quickly. However, the head shouts that he will not allow it. Her Leviathan releases a breath of water towards the golem, ripping off its arm. Metis falls down with her hand. Akira grits his teeth in exasperation. He tore off a piece in one shot. After all, the golem is too weak in front of the water element. The golem releases its destructive beam again. However, the head exclaims that it's completely useless. The beam won't harm him anymore. And how is he going to fight the earth element against a natural water enemy? Akira exhales heavily. At some point, Akira realizes that he has used up all of his magic. What's the point of a confrontation? It can only keep a golem alive. Was this the end? He had even been reborn in another world and would die like this? He bites his lip in exasperation and forces himself to think. Stagnation of ideas was a common thing, but he did not back down and always thought through everything to the end. The true strength of a mangaka is not the ability to draw, but the way his work creates worlds and affects people's hearts. He forces himself not to stop thinking. If everything was happening in a world he invented, if he himself created such a crisis, then the solution would be. Suddenly, not far away, he notices an empty scroll recently used by that heretic, and he realizes that he can draw the elixir. The head of the cult, meanwhile, haughtily exclaims, "Checkmate." Her Leviathan once again launches a breath of water at the golem, which pierces right through it. Metis exclaims in defeat, and the cult leader shouts that victory is hers. At this time, Akira runs to get the scroll. She doesn't understand why he needs an empty scroll. How can he do anything with it? However, the boy is too busy drawing an elixir that will completely restore his magic power. But then Akira realizes, with a sense of doom, that there is no magic embedded in this scroll. It's a used scroll. He won't be able to draw anything, because he's not charged with magic. If he were a mage, he would use the fill skill, but his magic is bad. Obviously, he won't be able to use this skill. The head of the cult exclaims happily, has he run out of ideas? So it's time to play a beautiful melody on his bones. All of a sudden, Akira hears Metis' voice yelling at him to run away. He's done everything he can, so let him run away from here alone. Akira gets something and tosses the scroll in Medi's direction. Medis catches the scroll, and Akira asks if he can do magic. He asks you to charge this scroll with magic power. Akira recalls that, despite the fact that he had magic power from an early age, for some reason he could not conjure at all. So he found this method, his peculiar, unique talent. By drawing on magic-charged scrolls, he obtained an item with all its properties. The scroll as a repository of magic became a cheat, with which he broke the laws of this world. He sends the golem to attack with all its might. This is another of his abilities, drawing objects. The golem gradually disintegrates. The head of the cult exclaims, first encouraging her, and then sending the golem to its death? In the end, these are just childish attempts. Suddenly, however, she opens her eyes wide. Akira chuckles. As expected of a hero, Metis filled the scroll with magic after all. The head of the cult grins. He's so fixated on this used scroll. Even if he reuses the magic-charged scroll, does he really intend to fight, even using this hero's flawed magic? Metis is taken aback when she notices the blood ink. Akira chuckles. There are things that even a hero can't do. He will draw the elixir. Akira uses drawing an item, elixir. He uses this elixir. As a result, a full recovery of HP and MP, as well as an increase in the amount of magic power. The head of the cult is stunned to realize that he has drawn the elixir. The boy uses the elixir from the scroll. Does he think that he will succeed in this bluff? Metis remembers that Akira drew something for them the first time they met. Akira chuckles. They're gonna check whether it's a bluff or not. Akira uses the canvas again, drawing and refining completed. It summons a fire-advanced golem. The head of the cult grins nervously. The golem glows. To defeat the water-summoned creature, he turned the earth golem into a fire one. This can't be happening! Metis screams. That doesn't make sense. What does it all mean? But even he doesn't know. Right now he has full mana. He will make a dash with all his might. Akira uses a fire golem strike. The head of the cult cannot believe that this is possible to the last. An explosion is heard on the coast. This explosion is noticed by the guards led by Akira's father. They need to hurry. They quickly run in that direction and ask to send carrier pigeons to the Count's army. We need to report this. Carl opens his eyes wide, startled. He hopes that Akira will be okay. Akira is lying on Metis' lap. He couldn't calculate the amount of mana, and he didn't even have the strength to draw an elixir. He has magical exhaustion. He mutters that he needs to hurry. The enemy might still return, but Metis must escape and call for help. However, Metis replies that there is no need. Akira jumps up indignantly. That stubbornness again? Metis immediately asks him worriedly if he's all right, but Akira shouts that no, it's not okay. They don't have any more options. We need to call for help immediately. However, Metis replies that it's not about stubbornness. He asks Akira to look there. The boy turns around. The guards were already gathered at the cave entrance. The knight asks if Master Metis is okay, and among them, Akira's father also appears with tears in his eyes. He shouts that his father is already here and calls him his son. Akira hides his face in embarrassment. He doesn't know him. Metis asks with a calm smile if Akira will explain it to him. Will Akira explain to him who he is after all? Metis continues to watch Akira with a calm smile, and Akira looks back at him. He realizes that this is too dangerous, and he needs to somehow get out of it. Akira asks if Metis will keep it a secret. He nods. There is no other way out. Akira replies that he is the heir of a magic shop who can't do magic. Can't he stick to this option? Metis stares back at him, wide-eyed. Akira purses her lips awkwardly, can't you? However, suddenly Metis smiles. If that's what he wants, so be it. Metis is really grateful that Akira saved him. Privately, she calls him the mysterious little summoner. While the adults deal with the consequences and discuss something, Medius admits that to become a leader worthy of his people, he thought that he needed to study even more. Therefore, he studied swordsmanship, magic, and even science along with the adults. That was his intention. Akira listens to him, but because of the temperature, he is completely exhausted. Metis continues. After meeting Akira for the first time, he realized something. He thought that he had learned a lot, but in reality it was only arrogance. Akira smiles. Some people won't even notice it in their entire lives. Isn't that great? Knowing yourself is an achievement worthy of an excellent leader. Metis smiles back. Suddenly they tell him that the cart is ready and ask him to pass. Metis says goodbye to Akira, and suddenly the aristocrat says a few words, Metis Fina Mayan. Akira doesn't quite understand what he said, and Metis repeats it again. That's his real name. Akira says his name by herself. It doesn't sound like him. Was he really that worried about it? Akira waves him goodbye, forgiving him to take care of himself. Tomorrow they will meet at the same place. Akira also shouts that he shouldn't worry about having a girly name. Hearing his words, Metis stumbles. Akira isn't happy that he's getting close to an aristocrat. He remembers moments with Metis and smiles. For the first time, he has a friend whom he truly respects. At this time in the cart, Metis is informed that a message has arrived from the palace. While he was concealing his identity, the rebels who had fallen for the double trick were captured to a man. They should prepare to return to the palace. Suddenly he calls her princess. She sighs. That's right, the life of the count's son is also over. The man sincerely apologizes. It's his fault that she was involved in local riots. She waves it off. Nothing like that. It was a very valuable experience for her. At this time, Akira is in pain. Diva anxiously runs to him and asks if he is all right. His father is also worried. Arya also approaches them and asks what is the matter. They say that Akira suddenly began to experience pain. Arya's eyes widen in surprise, recognizing the symptom. She quietly replies that it's not magical exhaustion. If the nerves that circulate mana carry more magic than they can handle, they become clogged. She had warned him. Damaged magical nerves are treated with an external mana transfusion, but if he fails, even if his life is saved, he will not be able to cast any more magic. This serious defect remains forever. Akira is in pain for the first time in his life. He didn't really understand, but it seems that he will lose the ability to cast magic. However, unwittingly, he will be able to become an ordinary person. It's not so bad. More importantly, if he didn't show up tomorrow, Metis would probably be worried. Akira falls asleep, and Diva also falls asleep next to his bed. A woman's voice grumbles that Pennsylvania is a country where geniuses are born, but she didn't expect a boy from the backwoods to bring her to this. The head of the cult, sitting on the roof, watches the boy. This young man, it's all about the singularity, isn't it? Arya appears behind her. The girl also turns around. Who would have thought that this kitten was being nursed by perdition? As one of the shadows that keeps the world balanced, what purpose does she have in harboring such a creature? The other shadows will not be silent. However, Arya replies that his power was blocked, so let her not touch this child. And if she disobeys her advice, she will become her enemy. The cult leader grins, having no intention of antagonizing Doom. If she insists, then she can rest easy. Perdition controls the singularity. They stare at each other for a moment. Arya replies, okay, and the head of the cult decides to retreat with faith in her words. She says goodbye, and he calls in Arya by the name of Malaria of Perdition. Will she be able to control his power? Arya is also thinking about it, but right now she's holding it back, but she doesn't know how much longer it will be possible. That night, almost without memory, Akira thought he saw someone's shadow. His head was full of all sorts of worries. What to do with Metis if he waits for him? A few days later, when he finally recovered and went to the designated place, he wasn't there. And then Akira waited for him every day, but Metis never showed up, as if meeting him was nothing more than a mirage. And so the years passed. The North Wall was beginning to show signs of the Odor's return, and Queen Kaisra Landstorm KM ordered preparations to be made for the impending threat. The heirs to the throne were tasked with finding the best sorcerers, and one of them turned to her mentor for support. She mentioned the person she thought was the most talented summoner she had ever met. The knight said that she would definitely find him. In the year 698 AD, the world of Altagrad in the north of the kingdom of Stormheim faced a threat in the form of the Odors. These creatures, which were a swarm of undead, attacked the people, causing them to cry out in terror and fight desperately. Their odors that gave off a golden glow absorbed life forces and copied the appearance of living beings, spreading across the country in 2 weeks. Victims turned into new odors, and their number reached tens of thousands, threatening both humans and magical creatures. Humanity shuddered in the face of this threat, but magicians from Pennsylvania and summoners came to the rescue privately, ready for battle. With the support of magicians from Pennsylvania, who held back thousands of odors until reinforcements arrived, they managed to turn the tide of the battle. The odors were crushed, and the war came to an end, but the victory came at the cost of the lives of the heroes of Stormheim. Among the dead were Swordmayan and his wife Saraya, the second princess of the kingdom, whose sacrifice saved the country. A huge defensive wall was erected in the north of Stormheim, and the people formed a world alliance for the future fight against the Oders. Queen Kaisera of Land Stormheim, realizing the limits of the heroes' abilities, abandoned the old traditions and focused on raising mages and summoners. It was the year 712 of the Altagrad calendar, and 14 years had passed since then. The people of Stormheim lived in peace and enjoyed the peace that had been restored after the hard battles of the past years. At this time, a group of men were gambling with dice, discussing luck and bad luck, as well as the actions of their comrades. The tavern was filled with cheerful conversations and laughter, and waitresses were serving orders, including wheat beer for customers. At one of the tables, two men discussed debt, loss, and help, remembering promises to return the money spent. At the table, a young man with dark hair listened to his friend reproach him for often paying unnecessarily. The interlocutor admitted that he succumbed to the provocation and mentioned a large loss, as well as a request to borrow money. The dark-haired guy chided his friend with annoyance that he was counting on his gold, and not on his own strength. He made excuses that he was going to win back, but the debt grew to 9,000, which was equal to the annual income of the store. They admitted that he had neither talent nor luck, remembering that he was the son of a court knight and was a poor swordsman. It crossed the dark-haired man's mind that he was the son of the owner of a magic shop, but completely devoid of magic power. He remembered that his brother and sister were part of the knights, guard at the north wall, and that he was treated more harshly. He asked if the friend felt any pressure from the family, but the friend replied that there was nothing of the sort. Perrin recalled that an accident in his childhood had damaged his magical nerves, and he had lost his talent. The friend pointed out that, unlike him, he might be capable, but with his current skills, it was impossible to make a career in magic. The guy himself added with irony that as the heir to the family, he is provided with a job and does not worry about capital or the future. The girl joined their conversation, noting that young people too often talk about the dark and urged them to dream more. She decided to treat them to sausages, noting that even a limited talent, but the heir to the store can be valuable. The girl added that she herself was born in full prosperity, so she understands their feelings, and offered to maintain a positive attitude. The girl suggested that the dark-haired guy go on a date after closing, but he was embarrassed and refused her invitation. She jokingly tried to get praise, and the other man also invited her, but received a polite refusal with a hint of practicality. The blonde guy noticed that his friend does not seek a relationship, but he took the recent proposal of the girl too literally. He reminded her of his duty, but the conversation was interrupted by the arrival of two women in the tavern. One of them turned to the dark-haired man, calling him by name and saying that she had come for him, which surprised him. The blonde guy jokingly suggested that his friend didn't need a girlfriend, since he had a noble elf as his maid. The hero was embarrassed and began to justify himself, denying such a thing, but received a tease about possible, unusual witchcraft services. The girl watched the conversation in silence, and the waitress advised her to think better of ways to pay off the debt. The elf informed the dark-haired guy that he had guests and they were waiting outside the house, specifying that they came from the royal palace. He remembered that since childhood, she had protected him, considering him a member of the family, and that she was the only one who knew his secret related to drawing. 8 years ago, his magical nerves were destroyed due to being abducted by heretics, and he lost the ability to use magic. He confessed that he was content with a simple life, and that he could only use magic with someone else's mana, which he had tested with Arya. On the way, he noticed a couple around, felt uneasy, and wondered if their time together was like a date. He thought about how he considered Arya part of his family and couldn't have romantic feelings for her. Unexpectedly, she took his hand and told him that he would be fine, even without magic power. The hero realized that Arya had heard their conversation, thanked her for her support, and noted that she was right. He thought that people felt sorry for him because of the loss of his magic power, while Arya continued to live with him the same way as always. His mother always asked him what he wanted for lunch with a smile, showing concern and warmth in small things. His father encouraged him with words of opportunity, even though his son was not yet very successful. The guy reflected that no matter how much he earned, he still did not achieve the desired success in life. Yet in this world he has the modest happiness of having a family and loved ones with whom he spends time. The guy reflected that he had found his place in life, accepted himself as he is, and does not seek competition. However, he knew that all this could disappear if he didn't pay the debt, and he was surprised to hear someone call his name. A woman in combat gear appeared in front of the guy, clarified his name, and called him a genius summoner, repeatedly asking her question. He was surprised to hear that he was called a genius summoner and wondered if she knew about his abilities. He noted that he seemed to have seen the woman before and assumed that she had come from the castle. The stranger apologized for the interruption, introduced herself, and said she wanted to meet him as soon as possible. The woman noted that everything turned out to be as she was told, adding that words alone would not be enough, causing tension among those present. The woman in the battle stance was surrounded by a multitude of lightsabers, creating an impressive and dangerous field around her. Akira was surprised to see that this was the perfect form of a woman, and the escort explained that this was her highest manifestation. The girl explained that the technique of the Mayan family allows you to strike many blows in one drawing of the sword and simultaneously defend yourself. She introduced herself as Katya Mayan, the second daughter of the family, commander of the Order of Knights and holder of the title of Master of the Sword. She confirmed that she was Medisfina's mentor Medisfini, and noted that they had not met again since the incident 6 years ago. He thought of a girl named Medisfina, who had once been his teacher, and of saying goodbye to her in the past. The boy asked why his mentor had come to see him, assuming it was a request from Medis, and asked if he could go. The girl replied that she was sent here, and it was about Medisfina, with whom he has special memories. She clarified that she speaks of Medisfin as a person who shares important moments of the past with him. She also mentioned his full name, Akira Rainford, making sure she didn't mistake him for anyone else. The guy thought that the mentor knew everything, and thought about how to deceive her in order to avoid unnecessary problems. He remembered that Medis had promised to keep their secret, but he was still worried that drawing, as Arya had warned him, would be a source of trouble. Most of all, he didn't want it to ruin his normal life, and he hoped to avoid misunderstandings on her part. Katya asked for some time and took him to a pastry shop in the city center, where they sat down for a table. She ordered a cake set, and he preferred herbal tea, explaining that in such a situation he had no appetite at all. He tried to maintain a pleasant atmosphere and began by praising the order commander for being a beautiful woman. She replied that his face looked familiar to her and asked if they had met before. She noticed that it was better for him to communicate with his peers, and he was nervous inwardly, checking to see if his polite praise of her had worked. Katya said that he was just flattering her, that she was a real beauty like no other in town, and the waitress whispered that she was trying. Akira added that the woman was closer in age to her parents and introduced herself as Katya Mayan, calmly sipping tea, surprising the interlocutor even more. The guy remembered a woman named Katya Mayan who came from an aristocratic family and suddenly cried out in surprise, causing a reaction. Katya, confused, tries to justify herself, explaining that she did not mean marriage and she herself has never met men. The guy, stunned by her confession, begins to think about the possibility of being her son, and notes that the situation looks strange. She calmly eats dessert, while he realizes that, depending on the choice, he could find himself in an unexpected family role. He reflected that a woman capable of becoming his mother would hardly be a threat to him. He sat down at the table and asked her a direct question about the reason for the visit, to which she answered evasively. Finally, she pulled herself together and called him Akira Rainford, saying that she would say everything directly, without circumlocution. Katya reached out and invited the boy to join her fire dragon taming team, recognizing the importance of his talent. He realized that Katya had come to invite him to join the dragon taming team, knowing of his summoning ability. The guy said that as a child he suffered damage to the magical nerves, which is why he is not able to conjure without scrolls. He noted that he was completely devoid of magic power, so he doubted that he would be able to be useful in the campaign. However, the woman realized that he was hiding his great gift from others, and this makes him special among others. Katya noted that he is kind and selfless, especially when it comes to a friend in need. She offered to replenish his mana by telling him about the sorceress in their team and the need for a golem shield for the mission. The hero admitted that he was still not sure of success, despite the explanations and the promised reward for participation. The guy was amazed at the amount of reward of 10,000 gold, which was enough to pay off the entire debt at once. It was explained to him that the money would only be paid for summoning a golem, regardless of the outcome of the campaign, which surprised him even more. The girl asked if he could help, and, noticing his confusion, reminded him of the need to help them out. Akira was outraged by the hint of a threat, but the girl calmly reminded her of her right to investigate hidden talents and their causes. She explained that it was her duty as the head of the knights, and he sighed and accepted her offer. He could only agree to summon the golem with her mana support and hope that the secret would be kept. The girl happily thanked the guy for agreeing, promising to keep his secret and offering to meet in the morning before departure. He agreed, thinking about the upcoming mission to subdue the dragon and hoping that the other participants would be decent people. Dev hooded glasses. Dev was outraged to learn that he couldn't summon without mana, and questioned his talent. The hero was taken aback by her words, thinking that he did not expect such a reaction, and hearing accusations of his unfitness. The armored woman said that he lost his magic power due to the accident, but at the age of 7 he signed a contract with an advanced golem. The hooded girl did not believe him, and demanded proof, and he confirmed his words, noting that he was treated like a child. She decided to test him and passed the mana to make a summon, and the guy accepted it with surprise. Akira, having received mana, decided to summon the initial golem for demonstration, and soon, a stone giant created by him appeared in front of them. She wondered why summoning the initial golem consumed so much mana, and thought about the incident the boy had experienced. She noticed that his magic nerves were completely severed, and the infused magic didn't reach the mana pocket. The companion warily asked what was going on, watching the guy's actions. The girl flared up and exclaimed, thinking that he was just kidding. The girl noticed that all the mana of the guy not reaching the pocket goes directly into the golem, which caused her confusion. It is explained that each mage has a mana pocket, and serves as a repository of magical power that flows through the magical nerves. It also shows a scheme for replenishing someone else's mana pocket and using it to restore magic reserves and cast spells. The girl explained that even without her own magic power, the mana poured from the outside should linger in the pocket, but because of the torn nerves, everything goes away. She compared it to a rusted-out trough leaking fuel, adding that it was only possible to gain magical depletion by doing so. One of the girls confirmed that his magic nerves were indeed damaged, causing him to spend more mana than necessary. Another wondered if he would be able to heal his magical nerves, since even in the strongest magical countries it was impossible. However, she noted that Prol Bryce is considered an unsurpassed genius, capable of the impossible. One of the girls confidently said that she could find some solution to help in his situation. The boy was surprised to notice the strange atmosphere, remembering how he lived quietly, justifying the lack of magic power. He was afraid, assuming that the girl was going to repair his damaged magical nerves. The girl sharply objected, saying that it was impossible to restore magical nerves, especially without the necessary equipment. She explained that the treatment of mana disorders is an incredibly complex technology that requires a lot of money and does not guarantee success. Akira smiled and offered to come to Pennsylvania for 100,000 gold pieces to get tested, regardless of the risk. The sorceress mockingly calls the other person incompetent, and the knight with a smile confirms his participation, talking about the value of summoners. In the center, a man resents the decision, considering the newcomer a burden, but the knight asks for a chance and promises to share mana if necessary. Fetsarka assures that even the initial golem will be useful as a shield against the dragon, and, grinning, agrees with the commander's decision. Complete tasks to test his abilities and character. Задание проверить его способности и характер. The witch reluctantly agrees, and the knight orders to get a valuable item. The witch is outraged when she finds out that the item is meant for him, and the knight notices that it is too good for him. He is happy with the gift, but the sorceress calls the act too wasteful. The guy examines the received mantle, noting that it looks like modern clothes. They explain to him that these are made specifically for mages, and she is able to automatically activate recovery and protection spells. The guy is offered to accept a gift from Medisfina as a gesture of sincere intentions. He realizes that this is a rare and valuable item that is made only in the greatest fairyland. The witch expresses doubts about the appropriateness of the gift, comparing it to throwing beads in front of pigs. The guy reflects that he is simultaneously being pressed with contempt and hope, realizing that everything depends on him. He admits that he is not even up to the level of a beginner yet, but decides to try to make everything go well. It also surprises him that they pay 10,000 gold for the task. The guy says with determination that he will do everything that depends on him, and Medisfina notes his fighting spirit with a smile. Two girls enthusiastically announce the beginning of the journey, encouraging their comrades to move out. The guy stands behind them, watching their determined attitude. The girl casts a spell, causing a powerful electric discharge that hits the enemy. The creature snarls as it faces the attack. The girl used the magic flash swing-in technique and compared the enemy's rage to a dragon basilisk. Akira sat off to the side and watched, thinking about the enemy's defeat, mentioning the fall and bruised knee. Two characters watched the situation ahead, noting that the opponents were too strong. The woman was resting in the hot spring, thinking about the proximity of the fire dragon's nest. The two girls were relaxing in a hot spring, enjoying the opportunity to recuperate from their journey. The conversation turned to the use of healing magic, and it was decided not to waste it on the incompetent, offering him a medicinal herb. The guy watching them complained that he also wanted to take a dip, but instead took out a valuable recovery method. The hero took out scrolls with prepared drawings of the elixir and noted that this medicine from childhood belongs only to him. He remembered the words of the woman who had warned him that despite saving his life, he couldn't use the mana pocket anymore. She explained that without someone else's magic power, his body would not be able to accumulate mana, and if summoned, he would die. He was thinking that Arya was always taking care of him, and yet again, he had deceived her by saying that he was going to deliver the scrolls. He was distracted by a girl's question about what he was doing with the scroll, and another teased him for using recovery. In the hot spring, the girls discussed the unusual color of the water around Prom and Katya, linking it to magic of the highest order. Katya wearily noticed that she was very tired today, and her interlocutor attributed this to the machinations of one awkward person in their company. The conversation continued by discussing the rarity of a magic spring that can restore mana, and observing how the color of the water changes when touched. She guessed that the source might affect the circulation of mana in her nerves, and decided that it wouldn't hurt to try. She emotionally addressed her companion, calling him a mediocre brat, and then suggested that he just sit in the corner. The guy thanked him and went into the water, noting that the sensations were excellent, and the girl, watching, quietly followed what was happening. A bright rainbow glow suddenly appeared around the guy, which caused the girl to be shocked and confused about what was happening. The girls were surprised by the rainbow light coming from the source behind the guy, and began to wonder about the nature of his power. They discussed an unusual magical reaction, suggesting that it might be a special gift, although the guy himself didn't understand anything. Akira admitted that this was the first time he had seen such a thing, and the girl replied that she did not know the reason. She explained that there are 5 variations of the source glow, depending on the magic power, but the rainbow effect is unknown. Another girl said that the guy is strange and previously there were no such cases. The guy pointed out that the grimoires didn't mention rainbow glow, and added that he was fine as long as his abilities weren't revealed. The girls were surprised, suggesting that he could be a monster or have incredible stamina, and he himself called what was happening bullying. Katya was sitting by a tree, away from the fire. The companion who approached her offered to rest, saying that she had just woken up and came to relieve her at the post, to which she agreed to sit down next to her. The girl noted with a grin that the companion left the girls to guard, and he was sleeping quietly, calling him a blockhead. Her companion advised him to be patient, explaining that traveling and sleeping outdoors were new to him. She added that there were few summoners in Stormheim, so she understood her friend's interest, but she wondered why she was making such a fuss about him. The heroine pondered that with his magic power violation, it was impossible to summon an advanced golem, and doubted if he could have done it before. She admitted that she didn't believe the story about summoning a golem at the age of 7 until she investigated and found out the name of his father. She gave the name of Karl Reinhard, asked if the other person had heard about him, and noted that the person who told her about it could not lie. Then she asked her what she thought he really was. One of the girls clarified in surprise that it was Rainford, who was called the best magician of the generation. Another added that he became famous even at the Pennsylvania Magic Academy Pennsylvania, where he was described as, quote, the second coming of the devil. She expressed bewilderment that this incompetent could be the son of such a great man. 18 years ago, Karl Rainford suddenly left Transylvania, did not take part in the war with the Odars, and disappeared, which caused criticism. It is believed that he settled in Stormheim and raised his son, which may explain how a 7-year-old child was able to summon an advanced golem. His genius in the magic arts of Pennsylvania allowed him to summon a golem for his son and make a contract with it, which sounds plausible. She admitted that this was true, because from the first meeting, he seemed to her not a stranger, but almost native, so she wanted to keep an eye on him. One of the girls said that now the background of what is happening is clear to her, and suggested that the interlocutor has a personal interest in the guy. A stream of fire erupted from the monster's mouth, and its gaze flashed with rage, ready to descend on its opponents in the next second. The heroes reached the goal after spending a whole day on it, and noticed that the enemy was a fire dragon. The mage completed the summoning, and an advanced golem appeared in front of them, radiating power and ready for battle. The girl happily called out to her companion, pointing at the huge creature that had appeared in front of them. The sorceress determined that it was an advanced golem. Everyone was surprised that a boy of this age could sign a contract with such a creature. One of the girls urged Katya to quickly end the situation. The golem was too slow, and the girl ordered Akira to divert the dragon's attention. The team was preparing to attack, but the guy admitted that he couldn't fully control the golem. He explained that the mana consumption was too high, and the second girl urged him to use his remaining strength wisely. The attack on the enemy was successful, and the warrior ordered to continue to cover them from attacks. He was impressed that he was able to summon an advanced golem, but he noticed that it was draining too much mana. He noted that in this state, the golem is too little use, and the flow of energy is siphoned off endlessly. She poured in her mana to restore her allies' magical nerves and temporarily increase the effectiveness of his spells. She noticed that his performance had improved a little, but he wouldn't last much longer. She urged him to finish off the enemy as quickly as possible, while he struggled to keep his feet, trying to fulfill the request. The girl's eyes lit up with determination, and she said the name of her technique. Scarlet rays flashed all around, filling the entire space. The enemy was caught in the middle of a fierce attack, boosted by a 30-fold acceleration, as blades and punches rained down from all directions. The hero was described as a living embodiment of battle, with a superhuman body and enormous magical power, created by an ancient deity, the goddess of war. The world-protecting clan of Mayan, heroes belonged to the 7 great houses, and possessed the secret art of Suyingna, inherited from the ancient ancestress. The heroine used a technique that could bring down hundreds of blows on the enemy in a second, surpassing even light in speed, demonstrating the true strength of a swordmaster. A distinctive feature of the Mayan clan was a red-eye buff called Blood Ash, which was also called Blood Berserker in various countries. The heroine was able to defeat a giant dragon with a single swing of the sword, which caused the surprise of others, and talk about the future of Mace. The heroine admitted that she had doubted before, but now she was convinced that Akira had signed a contract with the summoned creature. Akira noted that everything turned out thanks to the help, and his own actions were not something special, and the task can be considered completed. She explained that a spellcaster can win a beast over to their side, or inherit it from its predecessor. At the same time, very few people manage to sign a contract with a high-level creature, and it is impossible to do this in 7 years. The girl demanded to know why he was hiding his gift, and asked if it was her father's order. The girl noted that going to Arachon initially seemed suspicious, and suggested that Melis wants to make him a state summoner. He wondered why she was trying to find out about his power right now, and was surprised by the mention of his father's order. The girl said that there is no point in deceiving anymore, because if this is a project of Carl Rainford, then everything fits together. She assumed that the father carefully concealed the truth in order to develop the abilities of his son, who has the blood of a genius magician. The young man objected, saying that his father was just a simple shopkeeper, and asked not to try to deceive him. The hooded girl was surprised to hear the name, and noticed that the story about the contract with the golem at 7 years old sounded suspicious. The guy admitted that he thought it didn't make sense at first, but in the fight he showed that he really is the holder of the contract with the golem, even without mana. She noted that a 7-year-old child cannot have such abilities, and this suggests only one possible answer. He had heard that someone with great power had helped him make a contract, such as the most talented spellcaster in the history of the Magic Academy. He assumed with surprise and annoyance that it was Carl Rainford, trying to figure out what that meant. He shouted for everyone to stop, not understanding what strange conversations they were having. The girls were surprised to hear that someone called his father the most talented in history, because they didn't know anything about it. The guy was shocked and wondered if he was confused with someone else, but allowed that it might be true. Akira was surprised to find out that his father was a genius magician, and admitted that he didn't want such problems. The girls apologized, explaining that they only wanted to test his abilities, and did not intend to cause harm. They added that they hid the true purpose of the campaign to make sure of his talent. The hero, trusting Metasfina, suddenly felt something unusual, causing surprise among the girls. They noticed strange tremors, and assumed that the volcano had woken up. The girl looked at her opponent with alarm, realizing that the blow was not fatal for him. She exclaimed when she recognized the enemy as a fire dragon. She was suddenly aware that she was near the nest of a fire dragon, and she was filled with unease. She knew that it was extremely dangerous to disturb this place, so she said that the situation had become really bad. The guy next to her also looked dumbfounded, as if he shared her concern. At this moment, A huge creature appeared in front of them, and its body covered in flames towered menacingly. The heroes saw a divine beast begin to rise from the depths. His body shone with bursts of energy, and it felt like his stone skin was cracking when he woke up. They were informed that this creature had been sleeping in this place for a long time, and now it finally opened its eyes. It was askazavalis about the appearance of 3 divine beasts. At first, it was said that the earth beast was a norm. Then it was noted that the water beast was Leviathan. After that, it was explained that Elfin was considered a wind beastilfin. Everyone recognized that the strongest of the divine beasts, the fire salamander, was in front of them. They said that divine beasts would not tolerate the desecration of their territory and towered over other creatures by controlling the 4 elements. One of the heroes noted that Katya should not provoke the enemy, because even the hero will not be well off with a direct attack. Another added that this is not a simple monster, but a monster that was even worshipped as a deity. Akira hesitantly asked if he could escape, but was told that sudden movements were dangerous. He added that the enemy's breath will melt everything around for 100 meters at temperatures above 3,000 degrees. The hero noticed that they had a talented magician and asked if he could do something about it. It was suggested that in this case, it would be worth using ice magic. The magician was embarrassed and confessed that he wasn't very good at this magic. His interlocutors were surprised, because he was considered a genius and had talent. One of them noted that ordinary people also have a predisposition to magic. At the same time, he reminded that it is impossible to deceive everyone with attributes. In order to resist the enemy, the girl noted that even her strongest side would not be useful, because the salamander was the most powerful of the divine beasts. She added that only the combined efforts of 2 other creatures could have dealt with it. She mentioned that she needed the support of Elpin, who has the opposite attribute, as well as Leviathan and Norm. Then there was a small chance. The guy said in confusion that divine beasts didn't make contracts with humans. Someone else explained that if they could be summoned, they were no longer human. At this time, another character was wondering who the head of the cult that he had fought earlier was. He concluded that she wasn't human. The group was facing the enemy, and one of the heroes noticed that they had to make a decision to either fight or retreat. The girl said that if they ran, the enemy might attack them from behind, so it was dangerous to turn away from them. The heroes cautiously tried to retreat, trying not to make any noise, but the giant dragon noticed them and began to awaken. The beast opened its mouth, releasing a powerful stream of energy and accompanying it with a roar, which made it impossible for the fleeing people to hide. The dragon charged, directing its fury directly at the heroes. The girl managed to raise a magic barrier, protecting herself and her companion from the impact. Akira was surprised to see that the defense still worked. O'Neill recalled that she had previously mentioned a heavy waste of mana and wondered how she had managed to cast the spell. During the battle Katya shouted for one of her comrades to deal with the divine beast by himself and ordered the others to grab the wounded and leave. She told him to summon the golem immediately while she was holding the magic barrier. The mage hesitated, confused, and was again reminded to summon the golem immediately. He had been warned that this was not the time to save energy, as it was the only way to secure an escape route. Everyone understood that their safety depended on it, so everyone did their part. Some were supporting the barrier. Some were summoning a protector, and others were preparing to run. The sorceress said that in this situation, her mana consumption was too high, and if he gave her more, she would start to run out of magic. The guy shouted at her to shut up and added that he would figure out how to deal with it no matter what. He admitted that he could not escape, leaving the girl as bait, because she was trying to distract the enemy's attention. The guy decided to stay close and help her, hoping that together they would be able to hold off the onslaught and buy time. The stone monsters attacked at the same time. Prul cast 3 spells at once. She admitted that it had been a long time since she had given her best. She added that she would repair the allies' magical nerves. The others praised her actions and said that now they would not consider her incompetent. The guy looked at everything in amazement. He couldn't believe what he was seeing and wondered what she had done. She held the magic barrier tightly, simultaneously channeling the flow of mana and trying to heal the others' damaged nerves. The other character's eyes brightened as the true power of Pearl Bryce, a gifted witch from Pennsylvania, was revealed to him. A new spell rang out nearby, and the wizard ordered the element of atmosphere to obey his will and cover them with a boundless cloud. It was the magic of cloud descent. He noted in disbelief that it was weather magic, and wondered if all geniuses had similar powers. Prol cast a spell to make movement easier. Katya thanked Yeye for her help. Prol turned to Katya, asking her to be patient a little longer and hold out until the end. As soon as the golem's mana consumption was lowered, both its mobility and control time improved, which gave it a chance to escape. She noted that integration made it possible to pick up all the nerves one by one and connect them together, even the most distant ones. The figure in the flow of energy demanded to show the hidden corners of the body, saying the name of Akira Rainford. The light in the shape of a shining ball blinded the space. The girl was surprised that she was on the edge of connected nerves and tried to understand what was happening. She wondered what this phenomenon was, and assumed that the guy had his own hidden pocket connected to nerves. Suddenly, her guess was confirmed. A pocket of mana appeared in front of her eyes. However, she noticed that there was more to it, and wondered in fright what it was. She felt that a bottomless magic power was opening up in front of her. It seemed to her that this energy far exceeded her own. She reflected that she was a Prol Bryce, and that she had exceptional magical powers that were considered incredible even by the standards of Pennsylvania. She recalled that when syncing with another person's magical nerves, the measuring devices allowed her mind to visualize their mana pocket. The heroine knew that outstanding magicians could have a power volume of up to a person's height or more, displaying as a human heart. She understood that compared to dozens of ordinary mages, she had a huge pocket of mana, which caused her to be called a monster. The girl was thinking that the youth had drunk too many elixirs, and now his strength could no longer be called ordinary. It was unclear to her what had happened to his mana pocket, as it was clearly out of the norm. She reflected that the rainbow-colored glow of the source couldn't just be a coincidence. It became clear to her that the guy had an extraordinary amount of magic, and the structure itself was designed to hide a pocket of mana of this size. Looking closely, she noticed that the magic threads around the source looked like they were specially set up to hide an unusual power. She wondered who might have deliberately tried to hide that pocket. Her conclusion was obvious. This is all the work of a human being. She was surprised that someone had deliberately tried to disguise such a huge source of magic. The girl noticed the approaching threat and warned about the need to change the protection. The dragon slammed its huge bulk to the ground, shattering rocks and knocking enemies off their feet. The blows were accompanied by clouds of dust and a deafening crash. The girl noticed that her companion was under attack. She realized that she was too caught up in the breathing technique. The guy looked in horror at the huge monster, which opened its mouth and began to collect a powerful charge. The dragon was flashing with bright energy, preparing to launch an attack. In his mind's eye, he admitted that his second life had been too short and that it was all coming to an end. The enemy's first strike hit them squarely, and Prol took up a position in front of them, blocking Akira from the attack. But the pressure was too strong, and they were both being pushed back, and Prol realized that he was reacting too slowly. She told him to run. The dragon unleashed a powerful attack on the ground, scattering everything around it. Katya realized in horror that even for Prom it would be too difficult to withstand such a blow. She restrained herself from rushing forward recklessly and mentally apologized. Instead, she ran to the side, urging Prom to be careful. She recalled that the salamander's weak spot was hidden behind a fire bag in its chest. She shouted to Blood Ash, ordering him to direct the attack there. The warrior raised his sword and released a second Swingen-style Suingan, turning the strike into a piercing spear that destroyed everything in its path. The force swiftly crashed down, causing the ground to shake. Katya threw a punch at the monster, hoping that the attack worked. She watched the result anxiously, peering through the smoke and debris. The air was filled with splashes and traces of destruction, and she stood wary, not knowing if she had managed to defeat the enemy. She was trapped after realizing that the fire bag had worked against her. The guy dragged the girl across the scorched ground. Her body was torn and covered with burns, her breathing was ragged, and her face was pale. She hardly asked where he was going and demanded to be released. Despite her exhaustion, she did not stop talking, and accused him of abandoning Katya and running away, calling him a coward and a scum. Even in this state, the girl was still sharp-tongued, which he noted to himself. The guy continued to move, not responding to her words and dragging her further. The girl grabbed him by the hair and yanked him back, forcing him to stop. She screamed, accusing him of abandoning a comrade to save his own life. The guy tried to justify himself, but she interrupted him and showed him the scroll with the elixir. The girl said that thanks to him, his mana would fully recover, and then he would be able to transfer it to her. The guy looked serious and talked about his plan. The girl grinned in response, considering his words nonsense. He firmly stated that he was determined to defeat the salamander, and his determination made her look at him in surprise. He then asked for all the recovered mana to be transferred to him, emphasizing that it was extremely important for the project. At the end, he added that he would try to summon a salamander, even if the attribute was not the most suitable. A guy with a tense expression shouted out the name of the water divine beast. The girl stood looking out at the distant city and the towering castle. In her mind, she was admitting that she had broken her promise. She knew that this would cause dissatisfaction and bring him trouble. She smiles slightly and turns to Akira, telling him that this country needs him. Katya was breathing heavily, holding her sword, and had trouble keeping her balance. Even with the barrier, she could burn to ashes, but she continued to struggle. The girl with a determined look said that it was necessary to buy time so that Akira and Prom could safely retreat. A violent explosion thundered in the distance, sending up plumes of smoke and tearing the ground apart. The guy and the girl were watching the scene warily. Then she suddenly screamed out her friend's name in alarm. She lunged forward but was restrained by a hand on her arm. In response, the guy angrily shouted that she should be released and that the girl should not be allowed to die. Pearl realized with a start that dying together was not an option. She pulled away resolutely, showing her willingness to act. Her gaze hardened and her body lit up. She stood up straight, as if she was about to use a hidden force against her opponent. Pearl noticed that her injuries had disappeared and was surprised to realize that the magic power had restored her in an instant. She confessed that she had lost the bag that contained the last scroll, and now she had nothing left. The girl asked what he was going to do next if the scroll didn't work after hearing his words about replenishing mana. The youth firmly stated that he was going to summon the Leviathan divine beast. He explained that, for the sake of saving Katya, they are ready to risk everything. Confused, she noticed that it sounded like a contract with a human. She added that now is not the time for jokes. Akira was asking why not just try giving her mana. He added that if she thought he was lying, she could stop right away. Она решит, будто он лжет, то все можно сразу прекратить. He reproached her в том, что ради Katya она her, for having been unwilling to do anything for Katya, and asked her if the elixir had not worked. Pearl quietly admitted that she didn't agree, but was still willing to take the risk. She bit back her dismay, called him a boy, and mentally cursed him for his stubbornness. The girl intently said that if he cheated, then even death would not save him. She poured a huge flow of mana into him, claiming that she was giving him all that power. The guy was surprised to note that what was happening looked amazing, and wondered what kind of power was manifested. He watched the girl and realized that this was the full power of the Pro LL. The guy was standing in front, his hand outstretched. His spell ended, and the Leviathan divine beast appeared in front of everyone. The girl froze, startled by what she saw, and her eyes reflected real horror. A Leviathan appeared in front of her, a creature whose existence seemed impossible. The guy tried to explain that it wasn't the fact of the monster's appearance, but that the contract with such a beast was considered incredible, just like the story of the elixir scroll. The girl mentally noted to Athete it was Rainford's Akita, standing in front of her Rainforda. Yeye was tormented by doubts, because he did not want to understand who this warrior really was. The monster descended on the enemies, and the girl noticed with horror that its body was created from streams of water. Katya screamed in pain as she flew backwards, not understanding where he came from. The guy was standing with his hands clasped, and the air around him was filled with powerful energy. They said his name aloud in surprise, as if they couldn't believe it was really him. At this time, the monster was preparing to release its breath, but the flow of water interrupted its attack. From the side, another warrior felt his strength wane and noted that the opponent's spell was too strong to resist. Akira realized that he was facing the strongest opponent of the divine beasts. He noted that the monster resembled a golem and consumed too much mana. He wondered if he could handle it if the enemy cast another spell. Despite his doubts, he decided to take the risk and continue the fight. She thought about the fact that it had a huge pocket hidden inside and an extraordinary magic power. She remembered that this was what she had seen. A thought flashed through her mind: if only these opportunities could be used. She imagined how these powers could change everything. The dragon-like monster tore through the walls, scattering rubble and rocks. His fierce appearance stunned everyone nearby. Katya turned to her companion in dismay, thanking him for his help. The warriors shouted out the names of their comrades, trying to make sure that no one was injured, and wondered at the origin of the divine beast. She looked on anxiously and knew that only one person could do such a thing. Her eyes widened as she guessed that it was the summoner they hired who did this. The guy actually summoned a divine beast, and it shocked everyone around him. The heroine said with admiration that the guy is simply incredible. The girl agreed and added that it was true, mentor. The confused interlocutor admitted that she herself would not have believed it if she hadn't seen everything with her own eyes. She stressed that summoning an ancient golem at the age of 7 was unimaginable. The woman reminded him that that guy had managed to materialize an item from the scroll and transformed the attribute of the summoned creature. It all happened right in front of her eyes. She confidently said that she believes in his strength and believes that he is necessary in this difficult time. Then she confessed that she told him about it, despite promising to keep his secret. U insisted us that Akira was the one who could become the great savior of Stormheim, and then added that his role was even more significant. He could protect the whole world from the otters. Meanwhile, Lady Metis was thinking of the boy, and her normally reserved face lit up with joy. She watched, as if enjoying herself like a child. Prahl was breathing heavily and admitted that he was ill. He asked Katya for help, but his strength was rapidly failing him. His mana was running out, and he knew he couldn't take it much longer. The girl was trying to restrain the divine beast with her last remaining strength. The heroine explained that after the disappearance of Leviathan, they will become the target themselves. The only way out was to gain additional magic power and defeat the salamander. The girl suddenly offered to give her magic to Akira instead of herself. She firmly stated that it was the right thing to do, despite her friend's doubts. She asked me to trust her and promised to try one way. Her expression was determined, and even without further ado, her intention was clear. Katya shouted a spell, stretched out her hand, and released a powerful stream of energy. She said that he would always be her most trusted friend. He felt the mana flowing into him and thanked her. He realized that Kata was sharing her strength with him, and noted that he had a difficult job ahead of him. Prahl was concentrating on connecting the ragged pocket of mana, carefully intertwining it with the magical nerves. The light sphere gradually stabilized, emitting a bright radiance. She knew that it was necessary to restore at least 30%. The slightest mistake threatened to disrupt the balance of the connection. The consequences could be fatal, the loss of not only magical power, but also life itself. The girl was clearly aware of the risk. Thoughts of all the knowledge and skills invested in this flashed through my mind. Her determination wouldn't let her stop. She put all her effort into restoring the mana pocket and vowed to restore Akira Rainford's power. The heroine watched as the indicator slowly grew to 28.5, then 29.2, and finally reached 30. The girl spoke about the pocket of mana after waiting for a response. The girl stopped by the hanging laundry and suddenly said Akira's name. The heroine, with a frightened expression on her face, tried to understand what was going on and said the name Prahl. She looked confused and surprised by what was happening. He felt a strange movement inside him and noticed that his mana was suddenly aroused. The sensation was like an inexhaustible stream. The guy himself was shocked by what was happening. He was surrounded by a glow, the magic was rushing out, and he couldn't control it. The girl stared in surprise at the young man, who was bursting out of his body with a huge magic power. Others noted that it released an incredible amount of energy, even though it was only 30%. He realized that his power was exposed, and now it was impossible to hide it. The girl noticed that this magical power was always present in him. She admitted that she didn't know if he was a genius or not, but now he would have to work hard to live up to his expectations. The young man heard that his magical nerves were cured, and now he will have to participate in the battle, with no way to retreat. The night girl and her companion were surprised by what they heard, and repeated the words about the treatment of magical nerves in bewilderment. The boy felt a surge of power in his body, and wondered if it was really his own magic. Despite his dizziness and confusion, he realized one thing had been awakened inside him that couldn't be denied. Akira merged with the flow of magic power, feeling it in every part of his body. He raised the weapon, channeling the energy forward. The battle filled him with determination, and he felt that he was capable of the impossible. The monster's tail slammed down hard on the ground, sending rocks and dust flying in all directions. The hero, with a glint in his eyes, said that he was able to control it at will. His power was controlled by his thoughts, and the monster reacted to every movement. An explosion shook the ground, and a divine beast appeared amidst the smoke and flames. The girls watching were shocked, and couldn't believe their eyes. One of them asked herself if she was still awake, because the sight seemed unreal. The thought of someone being able to freely summon and control a divine beast shocked her. The girl shouted that they should also intervene. She concentrated to support her companion with her ice magic. Their forces joined in a joint attack. The snowstorm intensified, turning into a real storm. Magic flowed into a single stream, engulfing the entire space around them. The ice enchantment struck down with unprecedented power. The heroine's gaze lit up with a magical symbol. The attack was given the form and name Blood Ash. The world around them seemed frozen in ice. Katya abruptly raised her hand, releasing a stream of light and shards. Magic surrounded her body, turning into a glittering vortex. She loudly shouted out the name of the spell and sent the attack forward, as if tearing through space. Then she focused and moved on to another technique. A look of determination appeared in her eyes, and she activated a joint spell related to the third style. The crystal storm was flying around, shards of glass shining and slicing through the air. The warrior's body moved at an incredible speed, leaving glowing footprints. The warrior noticed that the monster had lost its balance and ordered an attack. The monster hit the ground. The guy was overjoyed and wanted to stab the enemy in the neck. However, the monster started to resist, and the situation changed dramatically. The hero explained that the weak point of the monster was the heart, hidden deep in the chest behind the fiery protection. He added that until you can get to this place, the battle will not end, and the danger will remain. The girl warned that the heart was covered with thick muscular armor, as strong as steel, and the creature was preparing for a flaming breath. In a flash of light, a winged monster appeared above the shattered ground. His silhouette burst out of the bright glow, pushing the rocks apart. Power radiated from it, and circles of energy spread out in all directions, crushing space. The girl put her hands out in front of her, and with a cry, she summoned a flood of power, and a glowing barrier appeared around her. The shaking ground showed the power of the spell, and the sword next to it almost flew off. The guy, covering his face with his hand, looked at what was happening in surprise. His eyes widened as he realized that a real magic barrier had appeared in front of him. He realized that he was saved again, and the feeling weighed heavily on him. The guy was breathing heavily, trying to make a decision. He knew that now the outcome of the battle and the girl's life depended on his actions. No wonder he was called the strongest. The mana pool was huge, but even so, Leviathan was nowhere near a salamander. Even with all the magic he could muster, the limit of his abilities was still insurmountable. It took a lot more strength to defeat this fire beast. Akira realized that there was no way to win within the limits of Leviathan's abilities, and his heart began to beat faster. He thought that increasing the size would be useless, since the strength wouldn't change and the mana consumption would increase. He couldn't change the attribute to wind, since he didn't know anything about wind magic and elven abilities. He realized that he needed a lethal form that could concentrate and release all the attack power at one point. The hero abruptly raised his hand, and the girl's eyes showed surprise. She recognized the familiar figure and said his name. A neat gesture indicated readiness for the next step. He asked his friend to cover him again when the moment came. Akira decided to focus on the enemy's weak spot and choose the moment when the beast's breath ended to strike. The warrior realized that he could not win a long battle, so he decided to gather all the power of the Leviathan at one point. He realized that as an artist, he could draw a deadly form for Leviathan and turn it into a destructive weapon. The huge spear hovered in the air, glittering with the power of a divine beast, and its energy filled the space. The girl stared at this weapon in amazement, recognizing it as the power of a water divine beast. The young man calmly said that he had created the spear Gungnirby, concentrating all the power in it, and now he had finished processing it. The deadly Levanir was named, and its appearance added to the tension. The hero smiled confidently, his eyes sparkling. It was now being decided whether the transformed Leviathan would bring victory in the upcoming battle. Akira is about to attack and realizes that this is their last chance. He doubts his strength, but decides to act. The guy asks Prola to do defense and Katya to force Salamandra to use breathing. The team makes quick decisions in a tense moment. Akira took up a fighting stance, holding the spear in front of him. He focused on his breathing to catch the enemy's moment of weakness. Prola said he was out of command. The girl noticed that Katya was again trying to act alone and was surprised at her stubbornness. The youth with no combat experience used acceleration, showing an unexpected speed. She wondered why Metasfina was so enamored of him, since there were only egoists around. The girl got angry and reminded the others that support is not an easy task. She focused her magic into her palms. The words of the spell left her lips as she summoned the power of boundless protection. A burst of energy exploded around them. A shining wall rose up in front of her, blocking the way of any threat. The magic barrier opened up, covering her from all sides. The armored girl immediately realized that the spell was dangerous and felt responsible for what was happening. Kroll took over the defense, creating a barrier to compensate for the lack of energy and cover the comrades. Akira firmly ordered to attack the enemy without looking back, making it clear that no mistakes should be made. The armored girl was preparing for battle with a tense face and announced the start. The guy shouted out with determination to use all his strength. The creature's mouth opened wide, revealing sharp teeth. The explosion lit up the entire area, the shockwave spread across the ground, and the winged creature spread its wings, releasing a blinding force. The others felt the magic increase. Someone noticed with surprise that they were getting more mana than before, and their eyes filled with light. Katkaya shouted to confirm the success, and the allies noticed that the job was done. One of them thanked her, noting her efforts. An incredible heat enveloped everything, and it became increasingly difficult to breathe. Akira struggled to withstand the pressure, focusing on his defense. He knew that the opponent's breath was not infinite, and soon his strength would begin to wane. It was only necessary to wait for this moment. After such a powerful move, the enemy's movements should slow down. Then a weak spot will open up, and there will be a chance to strike. The moment the breath runs out and you want to breathe again, that's when you can break through his defense and counterattack. The monster's mouth opened, and a clot of heat erupted near its teeth. Akira's eyes widened as he saw the impending danger. The boy tensed, concentrating all of his magic power in his hands. He extended his hand forward, preparing for a decisive blow. Lightning flashed around his fingers, sparks flying everywhere. Akira rushed forward, releasing a powerful stream of power that swept right across the ground, ripping away rocks and dust. A stream of energy cut through the space, leaving a deep furrow in its wake. The girls who were watching the scene looked at his attack in surprise. He steeled his resolve and gripped the weapon, knowing that the choice would be decisive. The order to strike immediately rang in my head. The guy slammed down hard, and the blast wave scattered around. The girl watched in amazement. She couldn't believe it was real. Her eyes reflected a mixture of shock and admiration. A huge dragon is hit and falls, debris and flares flying around. The hero's powers were powerful enough to defeat this opponent. There was a calm atmosphere around the house, and one of the girls expressed hope that Akira was all right. Another replied that nothing should go wrong, because we are only talking about the delivery of ordered scrolls. One of the girls noticed that the round trip took 4 days, and perhaps that was why their friend hadn't returned yet. She wondered if this was the first time they'd sent him this far alone. She even joked that if girls started hitting on her along the way, it might also be an unexpected problem. Then they remembered about Arya, noting that she was still nowhere to be seen, and were surprised by her absence. I asked her if she was going to join us for dinner, because she didn't usually stay late. She left the house, saying that she had already had breakfast. The others looked at each other, thinking that she really had something important to do. The girl walked along the road, her figure gradually disappearing into the distance. Thoughts of what she was doing never left those at the table. The dragon's huge body lay prostrate in the rubble and smoke, its scales torn apart, and its mouth opened lifelessly. 3 people were standing in front of the monster, silently looking at the result of the battle. He had indeed defeated the salamander, and his strength was far greater than the princess had said. With this young man, anything is possible. In her heart was born the confidence that this guy is the savior of the country. Everything was going as Medisfina had predicted Medisfina. She realized that it would now be possible to protect Stormheim from the Odor threat. His magic was amazing, incomprehensible to others. She sounded puzzled and determined to find out the truth. She couldn't brush it off any longer and directly asked who he really was. She recalled his actions and called them impossible, summoning a divine beast, changing its shape, and even the elixir scroll. Akira struggled to catch his breath, but all he could hear was a flood of questions. The girl demanded to know why he had such great power. The boy suddenly felt weak, his body swaying, and a grimace of pain appeared on his face. The girls nearby noticed this and called out to him in fright, not understanding what was going on. His body tumbled forward, and he fell heavily to the ground, leaving a trail of impact behind him. His companions called his name in a panic, trying to understand the reason for his sudden fainting. She touched his arm and was startled to feel a strong heat, as if his body had ignited from the inside out. He lay exhausted on the ground, and his companions were crouched beside him, anxiously trying to understand the cause of his condition. She screamed in desperation at him to stop this folly, and he was vaguely aware that it was all the fault of a strange, magical power. Above him, 3 dark-cloaked figures watched from a safe distance. Their faces were hidden by hoods, and they carried staffs with magic spheres in their hands. Oswald Willian, the Soul Tamer, was staring intently at the opponent's figure and asking if it really was Akira Rainford. Emmeline Dosek, a healer, noted the strangeness of summoning without a contract and the strength that was enough to defeat Oswald and the Salamander. Space Mage Mind pondered and noticed that such an event might change the Oder plan in Stormheim. Its strength was compared to the level of the Singularity, and the audience recognized that this will indeed have a significant impact on what is happening. A woman wearing a mask with symbols appeared before them, and she was named Singularity, a summoner named Karamase. The 2 satellites exchanged words discussing how to eliminate interference, but one of them said that it was better to be careful, because they could be monitored. The woman was looking at the city in the distance and mentioned one of the 4 shadows. Someone nearby said Malaria's name and wondered if she was dead. He recalled the events of 700 years ago, when 4 god-created beings had started a war for dominance. Because of their terrifying power, these creatures were called shadows, the vulva of darkness, and only one of them did not succumb to this power. Perdition Miriam, one of the high goddesses, created the Chaos Runes, and ended the feud by signing a pact forbidding the shadows from creating new singularities. Right now, her action looked contradictory. The others didn't understand why she broke her own word. After all, it was she who initiated the treaty, and was supposed to be the first to remain faithful to the concluded pact. The intrigue only intensified, and it began to seem that what was happening was connected with something more. That boy caused doubts in the audience. One of those present asked the question, what if Doom did not create it? Another clarified whether this means that the perdition itself has nothing to do with it. The woman explained that that's why she showed everything to the others. She didn't have any proof yet, but the circumstances were getting more and more interesting. They were debating whether to get rid of this power or try to attract it to their side. It was suggested that we discuss this issue together. The man noted that this power was too valuable to destroy, although there were still difficulties associated with death. He added that he would like to observe for some more time, then decide whether it will become a threat or not. He noted that Kara showed interest in the boy from the very beginning, and that's why she tried to persuade the others. The woman noted with a smile that she was afraid of Doom. She added that it didn't matter anymore. One of the warriors said that Kara had her eye on the boy from the beginning, so she tried to persuade the others. She said she was afraid of Doom, but that didn't matter now. Then she added that she supported the proposal and would like to keep an eye on it, but this is only possible if everyone agrees. One observer noted that he was curious about how far Akira could go. Another offered to take a look and follow it up. The cloaked men said that all their actions were directed towards the return of Icarus Enlil. They emphasized that it was in the name of their great shadow. The girl put the mug down on the table and apologized, saying that she should express regret for hiding the truth. She admitted that they took their son on a trip to the Fire Dragon without telling their parents. The heroine also apologized, saying that she hid the true reason for their arrival. She asked me to accept it and promised to speak openly in the future. After that, she added a request not to hide anything from each other anymore. Her words were firm, as if this was a new condition of trust between them. Katya, looking at the other person, excitedly asked him to tell the truth and named Carl Rainford. She demanded to know why important information had been withheld until now, and she wanted to know what Akira was really capable of. It was a harsh, snow-covered area in the north of the continent of Eliana, where the cliffs of El Fargo were covered with ice. The body of a beast lay on the slope, pierced by a sword, and there were traces of a recent fight nearby. The swirling snow added to the feeling of coldness and lifelessness around them. In the distance, the castle that belonged to the Stormheim Dominion, the Kalins Duchy, towered. The warriors discussed that they had counted 13 animals converted by the Odars that day alone. One of them said that there was no doubt that a new wave would appear in a few days. Another added that the second wave occurred just a week ago, and the gaps are getting shorter. They were approached by a man named Cora Kalins Gilsadan of the 7 Great Houses. They named him Excellency Aragarago, and he ordered a Stormgem bird to be sent to Stormgem with a message. There was concern in his words that the knights might not be able to handle it alone anymore. Next to him, they discussed that if the number of attacks increases so rapidly, then the third wave will have to wait very long. They were worried that the strength of the knights alone might not be enough, and the situation required urgent intervention. Trouble was already very close, and the woman said that they urgently needed reinforcements with a squad of magicians to deal with the threat. She stressed that there is little time left, so it is necessary to act faster. The heroine explained that they are now desperately looking for people capable of conscription, because there are almost no other opportunities left. At the same time, all the heirs to the throne followed a special order from the queen, and this greatly limited their actions. Katya reproachfully asked why Carl Rainford was hiding Akira's talent. Her voice was firm and indignant. Kachi thought with a small grin that I'd hit the nail on the head and now Carl was going to have to answer. The man said in confusion, as if hiding Akira's talent. He confided in a confused tone that he had lost the thread of the conversation and asked what Akira had done. Kate asked him reproachfully if he thought it was possible to play dumb, and then added that they were still being secretive. The guy tried to deny it and said that he really didn't understand what was being said, but his words only caused even more disbelief. Katya said that she understood and assumed that they didn't know anything. She remarked reproachfully that they didn't know that at the age of 7 their son had managed to summon an advanced golem and damaged his magical nerves. She reminded him that the child's mana pocket was sealed, as if someone wanted to hide it, and that all these impossible things were done by the 7-year-old child himself. Katya stressed that all this time, they kept it a secret. The girl added that she herself clearly saw Akira's manifestation of magical power when summoning. She admitted that she could not turn a blind eye to this. As a knight serving her country, it was her duty to report this to the palace. Katya indignantly declared that Akira was worthy of studying at the Royal Magic Academy and becoming a court summoner. After her words, everyone present froze in surprise, and the girl herself looked at the interlocutors with a firm expression on her face. The girl admitted that she feels at a loss. She said that there was no lie in the words of the interlocutor and admitted it. She asked not to disturb her and her son to talk. I also noticed that family matters require time and understanding. She later apologized for raising her voice. There was a hint of seriousness and tension in her words. Katkatai said that he would wait for news at the hotel. She added that she understands parents who are worried about their children. Then the girl noted that her and Akira's talent could be important for the country and asked for assistance. She reminded him that everything could be discussed later when Akira woke up. She ended with a reproachful remark about Carl Rainford. He was once considered a highly respected mage from the Pennsylvania Academy Pennsylvania. The hero's entire body was on fire, and he was breathing heavily, feeling a sense of magical exhaustion. His companion tried to calm him down, asking him not to worry and let him take care of him. Another explained that Akira had suddenly released a latent magic power, and the body needed time to adapt. He said that everything was fine and there was no need to worry. The girl clung to him, demanding that he become her consort, and promised to improve the circulation of his mana. The guy felt her warmth, and was confused about the closeness, not finding the words to answer. Akira woke up and noticed that there was a girl next to him. Confused, he asked her what she was doing. The girl answered evasively, hinting that he already understood her intentions. At that moment, he sharply shouted at her to get out. Arya sat on the floor and thought about how he was surprised by the mana circulation massage. At that moment, Carl came in and asked her to step out for a moment, calling her by name. The girl looked at him with mild surprise and obvious embarrassment. The boy flinched, dropping the scroll from his hand, and muttered that Arya still treated him like a child. At the same moment, he had a vision of the girl who had affectionately called him her future husband. He began to wonder if this was just a dream. In his confusion, he thought of the old promise that might still bind them together. Akira was going to pull himself together and drink at least some of the elixir. His eyes were focused, reaching for the jar. Suddenly, a glow appeared in front of him, and he noticed that someone was using magic. At the same time, a container of elixir flew out of his hands. Akira was holding a scroll in his hands, which suddenly started to heat up. He was surprised and startled to feel the heat as he jerked his hand away. The scroll caught fire right in front of his eyes, the fire rapidly devouring its surface. A tongue of flame devoured the scroll greedily, and the boy was stunned by the sudden ignition, because on the paper there was only an ordinary drawing. Akira was confused as he was drawing as usual, and decided that the reason might be a change in his magic potential. At the same time, his mother entered the room. Seeing what had happened, she felt alarmed and shared her son's confusion. She asked how her son had managed to summon a contractor, and he was puzzled as to how she knew. My mother explained that she had heard about it from a swordswoman. The girl once said that 8 years ago Akira suffered because the cultists overflowed his body with mana, although them and himself did not believe in this. Carl, being an experienced magician, could clearly tell that traces of incredible magical power were undoubtedly coming from the boy. But the guy maintained the seal by relying on it, even if it was a harbinger of doom, suspecting that summoning without a contract was her doing. He was beginning to think that she had turned Akira into her singularity. The girl reminded Carl of his promise to start a family, and she served him by believing in that promise. She revealed that Akira was born with a summoning ability that surpassed even the singularity. The girl was uneasy, realizing that as the young man's abilities developed, he might attract the attention of dangerous entities and anomalies. Therefore, she sought to contain his magical potential in order to protect Akira from the impending threat. Carl expressed his indignation by asking about the reasons for what was happening, because his incredible strength would inevitably attract unwanted attention. The girl explained that the boy's talent could not be completely suppressed even with her help, which surprised Carl. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the girl decided to reveal the truth that Akira is a special child, perhaps comparable to the shadow itself. Carl was shocked by these words. This meant that the Rainford bloodline would not be able to escape the curse, and he was deeply saddened that it affected Akira. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he desperately wondered why it wasn't enough that he himself was bound by a blood spell. The girl explained that Akira has already become an object of interest, and a demonstration of his strength can serve as a defense. An official recognition can become a shield. Carl understood that she intended to make the young man a court magician, and asked if she really thought it was the right decision. In return, she could only make a promise to someone who had been so careful about the oath that bound her to the Rainfords' ancestors. She swore to protect Akira, even if all the forces of darkness rose up against her. Carl asked her if she would protect him even at the cost of starting a shadow war, and found it both intimidating and hopeful. Carl and Akira were sitting next to each other, and the boy realized that his father already knew about his summoning. He confirmed his guesses by telling him that he had learned everything from the swordmaster Catley, as well as about the youth's incredible mana pool. Akira thought that her father was angry, but as far as the master knew, the true meaning of drawing and reincarnation remained a secret. He apologized to Carl, explaining that he wasn't going to cheat after learning about his power as a child, but was just afraid of causing trouble. The man calmed him down by reminding him that he was his father, and if it was a problem, it wouldn't matter and it wasn't worth apologizing for. Carl was amazed that the boy thought of Sevine first, and understood how difficult it was for a child. Akira started to say something, but his father interrupted him, saying that everyone in the palace knew about it now. Children with magical talent and the ability to summon are required to enter the Court Magic Academy. As soon as Katya discovered the potential of the young man, it became clear that nothing could be changed, and his mother would be happy with such a future. However, this power did not bring joy to the young man, as he dreamed of continuing the work of his father. Entering the academy meant that he would have to leave home for a few years, but Carl suggested that he look at the situation from a different angle. My father explained that his power can protect those who are dear to him, and it is a priceless gift. He convinced his son not to reject this power, but to diligently develop it in order to understand his true purpose. Akira recalled that as a child, he dreamed of becoming a mangaka to please his mother. The boy started crying, and his father was worried that he didn't want to go to the academy so much, but Akira tried to explain that it wasn't that. He explained to his father that he was sad about the upcoming separation, and reproached himself for behaving like a child. His father supported him by asking him to go ahead and not regret anything, to use new opportunities and remember the most important things. Namely, that in his native home there is always a place where Akira can return at any time. Initially, the young man shared his opinion, but now he was motivated by a desire to learn more about the outstanding magician who left his mark on the history of Pennsylvania. The conversation was about his father, and Akira was trying to find out if his fame was true. However, the answer was that everything was much more complicated. Carl made a condition that he would tell everything if the young man successfully completed his training at the Magic Academy. The boy thought it was unfair. Akira's mother asked him to be polite and not forget to brush his teeth 3 times a day. The young man asked her not to worry. Barely holding back tears, she explained that her feelings were caused by caring for him and striving for his good. He only exchanged a glance with his father. Turning to Arya, the young man asked her to look after his parents during his stay at the academy and said goodbye to everyone. Outside the fortress wall, the atmosphere was completely different. Thanks to the reward for the campaign, he was able to fully pay off the debt. Katya asked if Akira had ever been outside the wall, but he said nothing in response, which caused the girl's indignation. Pearl explained that the reason was that she managed to ingratiate herself by hiding her true motives and then forced him to enter the academy. Katya also claimed that there should be a strong bond between them since they survived the battle with the salamander together. Malchania. The children's silence broke after a while when Pearl announced the successful completion of the task and the need for an early departure. Akira asked her to keep him company, but the girl sharply replied that she did not sign up for the role of a nanny and pursued only selfish goals. The young man felt regret for her refusal and sincere gratitude for the help provided. He will never forget how the girl repeatedly saved him from the salamander. Pearl was embarrassed and protested that it was a small matter and she was only doing everything possible to save herself. Katya expressed her gratitude for the excellent work and promised to contact her later about the payment. Pearl stopped and decided to give him some advice, warning him about Nadezhnosti Katya's reliability and justifying her ulterior motives. She added that to achieve success, it is important that his heart matches his strength. Akira was mildly relieved that Pearl had finally addressed him by his proper name. Katya said that now he can be proud of himself and expressed surprise that his strength exceeds the strength of the girl. As Akira approached the palace, he felt a sense of unease about meeting Metis. The young man's excitement was growing and this feeling was very different from the tension in games. Being there made him feel extremely insignificant. He suddenly wondered at Dom why they were in the palace. Usually the nobility invites you to their estate. Suddenly a silhouette appeared behind him, warning him not to turn around. Akira panicked and tried to understand what was happening, assuming that it was the guards holding a knife to his back. He started to turn around but was immediately stopped and asked how angry he was with Metis. Offering 3 possible answers, the girl demanded an immediate response, but he didn't see why he should feel angry with Mr. Metis. When Akira finally turned around, he saw a girl who knew that he was fine despite the past 8 years. She immediately bowed her head in apology, feeling guilty for what had happened. It turns out that the girl broke her promise and it would have been clear to her if he was angry, but the young man did not even recognize her. Akira couldn't figure out who this girl was, even though she had a lot of influence. However, for some reason, she was apologizing to him. He expressed his regret again and was about to ask if she knew his name, but she interrupted him by suddenly saying it. Katya suddenly appeared out of thin air and slapped Akira across the face, calling him shameless. She thought that the guy was trying to use the princess apology to achieve something when he didn't understand what kind of princess she was. Akira was confused trying to understand what they were talking about because he didn't understand anything. Only a stranger apologized to him. Katya could not believe that the young man was serious, because it would be strange not to recognize her even if 8 years had passed. She angrily explained that this was the first heiress of Stormheim, Princess Metisfina Stormheim. Akira was shocked that she was the same Mr. Metis. He had never imagined that the princess could be a woman. The guy thought that Katya was trying to fool him again and said that he would not buy women's clothes. The girl had broken a once important promise, and now she was afraid that Akira would hate her. The question was that she had kept it a secret for all these 8 years, and now she needed to see him in person. Metis apologized for her selfishness. The young man still remained silent, unable to believe what was happening. She was not only incredible to him, but also had a rare beauty. The princess's grace was so striking that he doubted if this was really the same Metis. She suggested that he calm down and asked if his tension was related to the fact that he found out about her true identity, told him that she was a girl. Akira remembered her, asking him exactly the same question as a child and was startled, but he realized that this was the real Metis. The young man admitted that the news that she was a princess came as a surprise to him, and he was worried about their separation in the past. The girl could not reveal all the details, but she sincerely regretted that she hid her real identity and did not keep her promise. Akira smiled, realizing that it was just a childish promise that was left in the past, and realizing the reasons for her action. Despite the fact that he lived in close proximity to the fortress walls, the young man managed to remain unnoticed by almost everyone in plain sight. Midas was pleased with his understanding and took the opportunity to speak out and wanted to say one important thing. She asked if he would be willing to become her vassal at court after completing his training at the academy. Akira was surprised by this offer, as Katya said that it was enough for him to finish his studies and return home. In their state, children gifted with magic were required to study at the academy, and after graduation they became independent. Midas asked if Akira was aware of creatures constantly appearing in the north and posing a threat to humans. The girl explained that she was referring to the disaster known as the Odor. Hearing this, the young man was shocked and asked if she was talking about the undead hordes that were defeated 14 years ago. Akira suggested that they had reappeared, but Midas clarified that the situation was different and the details were hidden from the public. The invasion continued unabated, and for 14 years the Duchy of Kalins and the combined allied forces held off the attacks. However, they can only be countered by magic, and the meta-state needed the help of countries specializing in witchcraft. Akira finally realized that the kingdom was still in danger from the otters. She and the other heirs were told to search for wizards all over the world, and as the first princess, she had to show excellent results. Akira was the most powerful summoner she had ever met, and asked him to share his power by becoming her vassal. The young man was still amazed and remembered her words about how she, as the eldest heiress, strives to show the best possible result. He explained that after completing his studies at the academy, he intended to continue his father's work and asked if he should take her words as a command. She was saddened by the young man's words and realized how Akira understood her words. Midas apologized and assured him that she had not intended to force him to do anything and would not interfere with his plans after graduation. A recreation room was prepared for Akira in the palace, and the princess expressed her desire to continue communicating with him. Remembering her expression, he felt a strong sense of remorse. Suddenly, a voice that he hadn't expected came from behind. Katya sarcastically asked if he still considered himself a man, while Akira was terrified of where she came from. Indignantly, he asked her why she was sneaking in through the window at such a late hour. He was taken aback by her appearance fee, while the girl genuinely wondered what he meant by that. Katya explained that she was wearing pajamas and allowed the idea that Akira was hinting at her ridiculous appearance. The young man noted that the penetration of the guy's room at midnight looked strange and asked her the purpose of her visit, trying. Katya explained that she had stopped by after the party with Midas to check something out. The girl asked why he refused the princess, and he asked if it could be considered a request. He took the request for help from Midas as an order from a power-hungry princess. Katya thought that she should have done so, instead of asking such a narrow-minded person for anything. Akira felt like a fool for being a commoner and hoping for a friendly reconciliation with the princess. Katya decided to ask him directly if he really didn't understand Midas's feelings. She said that Midasfina was in a difficult situation and risked losing the title of the first heiress, so she turned to him with a request. He was surprised by what he heard. The young man wondered if the situation of the princess was really so critical and turned to Katya for clarification. The girl explained that Lady Midasfina is the daughter of the second princess and not the Kaiser Queen herself. Akira, who wasn't interested in political news, didn't know. Katya was indignant at his indifference to the affairs of the ruling person. It turned out that 14 years ago, during the war with the Odors, two outstanding people gave their lives defending the country. The queen's younger sister, Celeria Storheim, and her husband, the heir to the Swordmayan line of heroes, were Midasfina's parents. Traditionally, the country is ruled by the queen, relying on the support of heroes. The death of the heroes at the hands of the Odors was a crushing blow for the queen. After that, the Kaiser's queen abandoned the idea of hero supremacy and founded a magic academy, obliging everyone with magical abilities to enroll there. That was one of the reasons Akira ended up at the academy. Now, however, he was beginning to realize the full picture of what was happening. The first princess, the queen's own daughter, was destined to inherit the throne. However, due to her sudden renunciation of her rights to the throne, this honor passed to Lady Midasfina as the second princess. Since there is no provision in the legislation for the transfer of the throne to a man, even if not through a direct hereditary line, Midasfina remained the only likely heir. However, the problem was that Prince Oswell Storheim wasn't going to accept this state of affairs without a murmur. This young man had an outstanding ability in magic. From an early age, the prince was instructed by the queen to train in magic in various countries, but the praise of heroes in these countries always caused him to dislike. Everything changed when the queen focused on strengthening the country's magical potential. In his quest to turn Stormheim into a center of magic, Oswell began to integrate cultural elements of countries with advanced magic. Earlier, when Lady Metasfina was still the second princess, an attempt was made on her, and it is possible that the prince's side was involved in this. Amid Oswell's success in magical politics, the supporters of the kingdom's old heroes lost confidence, and the queen watched on. Seeing the current situation, she decided to give them both equal chances for the throne as an exception. Having allowed this rivalry, she made an official statement, not foreseeing the risk of turning the country into a puppet in the hands of other states. For her, Akira was not just a friend, but the closest person to her, and she never allowed herself to burden him with requests or orders. Katya couldn't take her eyes off her face full of delight as she excitedly shared stories about the boys' exploits during their bachelorette party. At that moment, it was not the cold haughtiness of the princess that was read in her, but the sincere admiration for the heroism of a beloved friend, the pure and genuine look of a young person. The image of Metis vowing that their paths would cross again was clearly visible in Akira's mind. Katya was deeply convinced that Lady Metasfina was the perfect candidate for a ruler capable of protecting their country, and the young man's presence at her side gave her confidence. She tried to convey to him that you need to perform feats not only out of a sense of duty to your power or for the good of the state. She also believed that young people may have their own motivations for using their abilities regardless of their circumstances and beliefs. It seemed incredibly noble to Katya to protect the only one who had given her heart. Akira didn't find it attractive to be put in such a situation, fascinated by women's charms, especially since his immunity to such things was quite strong. The girl warned him not to underestimate women because they can be more dangerous than he thinks, and despite her appearance, she has seen a lot in her life. It wasn't difficult for her to charm Akira with her mature charm, while he was completely baffled by her behavior. Metis approached the young man, realizing how hard it was for him now, and she only spoke about her feelings. In an effort to recall their shared memories, she peeked into his room and asked if he was awake. When she entered Vidula, she saw Katya and Akira together, and Akira hurried to explain that what she saw wasn't exactly what she thought it was. Metasfina apologized for the sudden visit, thinking that she had interrupted their private conversation with their esteemed mentor. Katya asked her not to joke like that anymore and told her about the night's misunderstanding, explaining that they were just playing pranks on each other. She also stressed that Akira was genuinely happy with her company, and the young man himself confirmed this, saying that it was a great honor for him. Metasfina offered to help, and asked what part of the castle he would like to see, expressing her willingness to show him every corner. While walking, they came to the main gate, which Akira couldn't see since he entered through the back entrance. The young man admired them, finding them so magnificent that it surpassed any description, which is quite natural because this is the face of the castle. Suddenly, the young man's attention was drawn to a cart in which, looking closely, he noticed a wounded warrior. It turned out that the soldiers had returned from the Duchy of Kalines, and Katya had warned them that she would be away for a short time. Metis didn't say a word as she rushed over to the injured man, happy for their return. At the sight of her, the warrior began to cry, and the princess took his hand in hers and said that they had fought bravely and were the pride of the state. The warrior protested that the girl would get her hands dirty on him. It became known that these knights fought with the Oders, and the triumphal return cannot yet be made public. Feats of warriors risking their lives in battles in the north are not even awarded the deserved recognition. To give yourself completely for the sake of the motherland without demanding any fame or honors, these were the true heroes. Akira noticed that the girl hadn't changed at all since she was young. Oswell, hearing Metis' words about the knights' heroism, considered them a lie. He was willing to accept these knights as mere pitiful victims sent to certain doom and a bargaining chip. The princess was outraged by the fact that despite his opinion, he allowed himself too much. The young man calmly asked what he had said too much, and asked to clarify exactly what he had made a mistake. With each passing day, the odors became more violent, and soon it would not go unnoticed by the people, and the supplies of peaceful dries were running out. Действительность. The reality was that a blind faith in heroes and weapons alone would not be able to protect them. Ovell explained that Metis should have realized for herself that the time of coinks was long past, and that by clinging to the heroes, Stormheim had become insignificant and vulnerable. He believed that it was time to recognize the country's backwardness from the rest of the world, which stubbornly praises outdated traditions. In response, the girl asked if Oval thought it was right to involve mages in an alliance with foreign nobles. The princess recognized the need to work with others to enhance their magical potential, but stressed that the power of the blades was their pride. She saw the path to harmony between swordsmanship and magic as the only true solution. The princess asked me to take it all back. These knights used their shields to protect the mages on the front lines of Kalinets, and this should never have been a bargaining chip. Ovel asked them not to ignore the harsh reality, for even Kord Kalin's Gilsadan had bowed down to the Odatsers and turned to the magicians for help. The heir to the throne asked her what she would do in this situation, and if she could provide at least one experienced mage or specialist in summoning creatures. He was also interested in what measures she had taken for the progress of the magical arts in their state at the moment. Oswell assumed that Metis was amused by looking for gifted people from the lower classes, completely without engaging in diplomatic relations with advanced magical powers. Due to the princess, many such naive displays, Sheos still hasn't been followed by any outstanding magicians. The prince repeated his request for return and explained that he had hundreds of mages and summoners at his disposal. Turning to her, he asked about the number of spellcasters on her side and demanded to stop talking about traditions and the right path. The young man wanted to see concrete results of her activities for the benefit of the country and the people. He stressed that otherwise she does not have the right to hold a leadership position. Akira remembered his own words that without real success, these are just hypocritical excuses, and this is the law of the professional world. Oswell has already prepared a suitable option so that Metis can benefit the state. In the kingdom of Schaffhausen, with which the young man kept in touch, the second prince was looking for a spouse, and if she became his wife, their country would receive support. Oswell suggested that the idea be carefully considered, aiming for the same harmony of magic and blade that Metis valued so much. Akira suddenly chimed in. He stated that if we are talking about the summoner of Lady Metisfina, then there is already one. The young man introduced himself as Princess Metisfina's chosen summoner from among the common people. At a glance, it was clear that this prince would not hesitate to sacrifice others to achieve his goals. But Madison, on the other hand, was always merciful and sympathetic. Oswell recognized Akira's last name. In this country, it is difficult to find a prominent person who does not know about the prince, and he asked about the origin of the young man. Akira replied that he was originally from Stormheim and was the son of the owner of a magic shop located outside the city wall. The prince expressed surprise that he didn't know anything about the young man's talent, even if he was a commoner. Akira, on the other hand, was worried that his cover-up might cause problems and lead to a prison sentence. Oswell suggested that the young man had poor results in the exam and complained that it is difficult for an ordinary person to find a worthy mentor. He asked if he could summon the slime. Akira understood that he needed to be persuasive to avoid trouble and assured him that he could easily handle this task. Metis interrupted the conversation by asking what exactly he meant and noting that the prince did not understand the point even if it was a simple young man. She focused on his outstanding abilities, emphasizing that he was superior to any noble mage she had ever encountered and would not allow Akira to be treated with disdain. The guards and soldiers of the fortress were watching closely. Katya was surprised at the firmness with which Metis defended her position, daring to contradict the prince to his face. Ovel explained that he had no intention of belittling the young man because of his background, but felt that she was exaggerating a little by putting him above the nobility. The princess assured him that after seeing Akira's abilities, he would immediately understand his short-sightedness because the young man had no equal. The prince asked if the boy was truly superior to all of his people and asked if she was willing to confirm her words. With a grin, Ovel offered to run a check. You can say anything in words, but if Akira is really as strong as she claims, then he wanted her to prove it. The prince suggested that a duel should be held between the nobles and the commoners of the academy. Ovel would gather his team, and Metis would gather hers. In case of defeat, the guy will apologize and recognize her talent in finding gifted people, as well as make efforts to train people from the people. Only if he triumphs will she also agree to terms that recognize the importance of finding allies for Stormheim among other nations. Moreover, Metis must agree to his marriage proposal. Ovel was convinced of her overconfidence. All this meant her abdication of the throne. Akira hoped that the princess would realize that this was a trap. Katya expressed indignation at the inadmissibility of causing political consequences with a normal dispute and asked to refrain from such actions. Ovel intended to humiliate her in front of the guards by saying that if Metis wasn't sure what she was saying, she could just forget about this conversation. Akira was relieved by Katya's presence, since the princess was too trusting, and the prince was cunning and could easily mislead her. The young man turned to Metis, emphasizing that in the current situation, the decision on marriage would be too hasty and that it was time for them to return. Unexpectedly, the princess announced that she was accepting Ovel's challenge, leaving Katya and Akira stunned. They wondered what she had done. Metis, full of confidence, said that she wasn't going to lose as long as Akira was on her side. In response, she demanded that the prince apologize to the young man and remind him of his promise to help the common people. There was no logic to the extra training, since it was Paul Bryce herself, even though he'd heard rumors of her rejecting all offers. He asked her if she had any specific reason for choosing to teach here, but she said no. Bros the door. She just got word that something exciting was waiting for them this year. Anthony Green, the Silver Mage, excitedly announced the upcoming clash between the commoner and noble teams. Bronze Mage Elise Regan asked him to keep his voice down and confirmed that she was aware of this. Bronze Mage Ani Brightling added that the duel will take place between those brought by Metisfina and the wards of Mr. Oswell. They were curious if it was true that if they were defeated, the princess would have to get married. Anthony asked Eliza where she heard this, and the girl explained that all the soldiers talk about it. Rumors quickly spread around the castle, as did rumors of the princess, Madness, but the young man refused to believe it. Elise doubted their ability to defeat the elite who had returned from abroad, even those who barely reached the silver rank. That team had 3 summoning mages, and the girl assumed that Metisfina had been misled. He was annoyed at the benefit of their whining. Anthony stressed that Elise was the second most powerful person in their group, and instead of complaining, she should have supported them. The girl admitted that she herself is at a loss. She added that if words of support could increase the chances of success, she would definitely say them. Metisfina's performance made her wonder if she had deliberately surrendered the throne. Hearing this, the others were outraged, thinking that Eliza was insulting the princess. While an argument was going on between the girl and the young man, Demetrius, who was watching this sad scene with a grin, intervened in their conversation. It was the aristocrat Demetrius von Velo, a level 28 silver rank holder. He believed that Metisfina was the root of all the troubles, that she could not stand the pressure and exposed herself, and the others only follow her example. Demetrius said that the princess herself was to blame for what happened, because she placed an exorbitant amount of hopes and expectations on her comrades. He called Anthony a low-ranking baker's boy, and Eliza a useless singer. The guy called Ani a girl with a dubious reputation, studying at the academy. All this, in his opinion, was complete chaos. Demetrius treated everyone present with contempt, considering them unworthy of the high title of academicians. Anthony tried to stop him, but Alistair cut in. Alistair Fonwell was an experienced bronze-level mage who had reached rank 15. He was the older brother of Demetrius, who never missed a chance to tease him because Alistair was lower in rank than some of the common folk. The guy patiently explained that for the sake of the well-being of her younger brothers and sisters, Annie worked in the bar and there was nothing shameful about it. The young man thought that such behavior was humiliating because his brother was content with the role of a friend of commoners, which is why his magical abilities did not develop to the full. Alistair objected by pointing out that in the academy, the origin does not matter. All students are treated equally. Demetrius quipped that the princess becoming a wife after a duel would bring huge benefits to the country, turning into an influential figure in another state. He expressed doubts whether this equal study could continue without the protection provided by the princess and asked his brother to be lenient with him. Alistair wondered how Demetrius could not see the obvious things, while Eliza thought that there was some truth in the young man's words. The girl gave up her dream of becoming a singer, following the princess, and now believed that she had entered into an unequal battle in which she could not win. If Ani had decided to return to her hometown, she would have been unable to provide for her family, as she wasn't even an adventurer. The girl was aware of her dependence on an academic scholarship and was afraid of being expelled. Anthony suddenly broke in on their dark conversation, declaring his respect for Metisfina. The princess has always been concerned about the welfare of the people, so she created a scholarship program to give people like them a chance to get an education. He couldn't tell if she was sincere in admitting defeat or if she still believed in their success, given the significant difference in rank between the two teams. This time, Anthony didn't know the logic behind the princess' actions. Alistair shared what he'd heard from the guards, that Metasfina was unwaveringly confident of victory, although the reasons for this confidence remained a mystery to the boys. The mage himself couldn't vouch for the accuracy of the information, but it was rumored that the princess had prepared a crucial secret. This argument turned out to be the strongest summoner among the commoners whose identity was not known to the Geistum. Greta Maverick, Akira's summoning teacher and mentor, congratulated him on entering the Magic Academy. She noticed that the young warrior standing in front of the prince accepted the challenge to fight with the nobles and appreciated his firm character. Greta asked if he would like an explanation about what was going on, and Akira accepted her offer gratefully. The teacher said that training at the academy is designed for 4 years, and twice-a-year exams are held to improve their skills. For each skill level, there is a special confirmation test, and a prerequisite for graduation is to reach the level of a gold magician or higher during training. The graduate is awarded the honorary title of state magician, and if he comes from the common people, he is also granted the status corresponding to the baron. In addition, he is allowed to marry a girl from a noble family. Greta thought it was a very tempting reward, while Akira didn't like it at all. The teacher warned that it will not be easy to complete your studies at the academy. Those who fail to reach the gold rank level in 4 years are given 1 more year to correct. At the end of this additional period, the student is expelled without the right to re-enter, so it will be necessary to study hard. On the way to the lecture, the young man thought about why he hadn't thought about the possibility of being expelled earlier due to insufficient strength level. Akira was almost ready to go home. He recalled his words about being Metasfina's chosen summoner from the commoners, as well as the duel between the aristocracy and the common people. Akira was extremely agitated as he realized the consequences of his actions. It seemed to him that he had lost control of himself because of the prince's behavior, and now there was no turning back. The young man was determined to do his best, quickly move up the ranks, and return home. If he failed, Metis would be married. He knew that he couldn't betray the princess by retreating. Akira wouldn't be able to sleep well if a girl was forced into marriage because of him. The boy was absorbed in thinking about the possibility of victory when Katya suddenly distracted him by calling for a short conversation. Metasfina began to apologize for dragging him into this argument without asking for his consent, thinking that he would refuse. She knew that if she lost, she would have to get married, which Akira took as blackmail. He took a deep breath and calmly inquired about the forces at their disposal. Metis was surprised to realize that the young man agreed, but he immediately stressed that he could not guarantee victory in the duel. However, that wasn't the main thing. The most important thing was that Akira was on her side. The girl couldn't hold back her tears, and Katya tried to comfort her. Metis suggested that it would be better if she married for convenience, contributing to the conclusion of a profitable political union. Akira believed that the princess, early loss of her parents and sudden ascension to the throne, had forced her to hide her true emotions. He also felt guilty for what had happened, because his ill-considered intervention in the conversation had led them to a difficult situation. The girls looked at him in amazement, and the young man, wanting to explain how to introduce the people of Stormheim, continued to speak. Akira shared Lady Metasfina's desire to create a society where everyone has equal opportunities, regardless of their position. To the best of his ability, the young man intends to help her ascend to the throne. Katya knew that he was so skillful, and she was grateful for it. She wasn't wrong about Akira Rainford predicting his help. The young man asked a question about their future actions. Metasfina, overwhelmed with joy, burst into tears and confessed that she was happier than ever before. Akira hesitantly asked Elle if she would be offended if he was defeated in battle. The girls asked him not to say that. Anthony, Annie, Elise, and Alistair finally saw that strongest summoner. The name Akira Rainford struck Demetrius as familiar, and he remembered that he was the son of a Pennsylvanian devil. It was as if the man had indeed cut off all contact, hiding from civilization and becoming a merchant in Stormheim. The young man asked if it was true that Ermera didn't know anything either. Demetrius found out all the details and decided that Akira is completely worthless and will not be a rival to the one who the girl sent to the aristocrat team. He didn't understand why Metasfina had agreed to such a thing, and he was struck by her recklessness. Akira was very worried about the attention, thinking that if he didn't show confidence, he would disappoint Metis. Greta began the lesson by stating that the students probably already knew about the latest developments, The news was that the prince and princess had organized a training match between nobles and nobles to promote the academy. The teacher wanted to emphasize that this is the result of a joint effort, but noticed that the nobles are absent from the lecture again. Greta announced the postponement of the class and suggested that we go to the announcement of the list of participants. In the vanguard was Alistair Fonwell. His stats were Health 500, Mana 130, Stamina 120, Intelligence 90, Potential 60, Intuition 90, Gift was a gift from Earth. Second in line is Annie Breitling, a bronze rank of level 16. Her stats were Health 480, Mana 165, Stamina 95, Intelligence 55, Potential 85, Intuition 70. Gift was a gift of the Ohm tribe, enhanced by gift healing charms. The third is represented by Eliza Regan, also bronze rank 18 level. Her stats were Health 320, Mana 180, Stamina 70, Intelligence 65, Potential 88, Intuition 70. She has the gift of absorbing magic and freezing spells. Assistant Captain Anthony Green has a silver rank of 21 levels and the following stats. Health 630, Mana 250, Stamina 80, Intelligence 110, Potential 92, Intuition 75. His gift is Summoner, and his enchantment is Wind. Anthony, as the team's sole representative of his people and former sole summoner, had high hopes. However, another summoner recommended by Lady Metasfina appeared, which removed Anthony from his pedestal. Soon, Akira Rainford was introduced to the position of captain. The audience greeted him with applause. In response, the young man rose from his seat and greeted everyone with a wave of his hand. Greta noted that he was confident in front of the audience, but some people thought that he thought too much of himself. In fact, the young man just spontaneously reacted to the greeting, but it was perceived as arrogance. During training, Katya noticed that Metis' sword was wavering and assumed that the lady was nervous about the academy. The academy was completely unclear about what was going on. Katya thought that she should have told her everything, but the princess urged her to stay out of it. Rumors spread throughout the city that Metasfina not only personally brought a summoner, but also actively participated in the competition, which could further complicate the situation. There were also rumors about her close relationship with Akira, which caused the girl only indignation and refutations. She was afraid that her actions might cause trouble for the young man, and came to the conclusion that it would be better for her if he did not participate in this competition. Using the Corona Electro-Crystal, one could determine the level of a person's magic power. Anthony once again showed outstanding results, increasing his stats by 250 mana points, while the rest of the contestants didn't meet Greta's expectations for his background. She reported that in the enemy team, all participants have a gold rank. Nidumivaya asked her, perplexed, why she wasn't worried about them, and why Akira wasn't measuring his mana. The guy tried to refuse, citing his lack of readiness, but Greta did not accept his excuses, and explained that you just need to put your hand on the crystal and release your mana. Akira himself was interested in performing a magic power measurement for the first time, and decided that since it was unavoidable, it was worth a try. Everyone present was startled to see his golden rank. Then they assumed that the young man's level was higher than platinum. Upon closer inspection, it turned out that his magic energy reserve was 70 units, while his cultivation level was only 7. Elise resented seeing Akira as a weakling due to his lowly 70 mana points and felt cheated. Alistair urged her to calm down, claiming that this is a typical situation. He made a joke about an unexpected plot move, where the character hides his true strength under the guise of an ordinary person, but the girl reminded that they are not in the novel. Akira wasn't even gold or bronze, but only iron rank, and Elise blamed the princess for all of this. Alistair hoped that the lady wasn't putting everything on the line, but the girl was of a different opinion, and thought that she should just get married. Ani was afraid and worried about the future if Metasfina left them, because she was their main protector at court. Anthony had already settled into the lower bunk and asked Akira if he would mind sleeping upstairs, to which Akira said yes. In return, he offered him full access to the closet, and asked him not to worry so much. Anthony advised that the position of captain should be treated as a mere formality, since he was not even listened to, and the decision was already made. He noticed his dejected state and assumed that it was due to the fact that the young man had come here full of hope, inspired by the princess's enthusiasm. Anthony didn't surprise Akira with his way of communicating, considering his level 7 status. To change the subject, Akira wanted to ask questions about the academy. The young man apologized, explaining that he did not want to shift the blame and expressed readiness to answer questions. For Akira, the level didn't matter. He didn't even expect to have as much as 70 mana points. At first, the meaning of these numbers was not clear to him, but judging by the disappointment of the other students, everything became very clear. However, Prolel rated him higher, and Akira assumed that the measuring instruments weren't able to accurately detect his abnormally elevated mana level from elixirs. He decided not to reveal his power just yet. Anthony asked him to introduce himself properly. The guy called himself Anthony Green and expressed joy about the new neighbor, as he was lonely. Akira responded by extending his hand and introducing himself. He found Anthony good-natured, even though he seemed saddened by the situation. Anya asked about their plans for tomorrow, and Anthony said that he promised to do everything possible. After talking to Akira, Anthony realized that Akira has very little knowledge of magic, and most likely, if he summoned without a contract, he would summon unclassified creatures. Anne couldn't fathom the princess, motives, and Anthony asked if she knew about the lady's will, which was confirmed. No matter what, the guy vowed to find a way to win. Demetrius happened to overhear their conversation and curiously asked how a silver-ranked mage intended to stand up to him. With a grin on his face, the young man revealed that he had heard rumors that the princess' trump card was a useless summoner. It was clear to him that a girl stuck in the past was behind this, and it was very obvious. He wondered why the boy did notice her return to his assigned place, and why the baker did not concentrate on his craft. Turning to Anya, he said that after her return to the pub, he would only visit her. Anthony tried to restrain Demetrius. However, the young man regarded this as an impertinence and asked if he was going to get cold feet in the upcoming battle. Anthony said he wasn't sure about the outcome, but he wouldn't find out until he tried to, and at least they had a chance. Especially if the opponent is Demetrius, the chance increases since both of them belong to the silver rank. The young man was offended by this and objected that being on the same level as an aristocrat is already a considerable success. He suspected that Anthony was deliberately forgetting the rules for addressing nobles and warned him not to take too many liberties. Irritated, Demetrius stressed that regardless of the situation, representatives of the upper class should be shown due respect. Alistair decided to celebrate Akira's arrival and offered him a treat, allowing him to choose whatever he wanted. He encouraged the young man, explaining that he shouldn't be upset about the mana dimension and expressed confidence that everything would be fine. Eliza also bluntly added that everything will get better when the princess gets married. Akira asked if the nobles were that powerful. She said it was a hopeless task. Even if you gather all the imagers and summoners, there's barely a quarter of the gold rank. Alistair didn't think he should be so pessimistic, but Eliza insisted that she was right. Akira asked how many creatures can be summoned with a gold rank, which caused surprise among the others. The girl indignantly noted that the young man did not even know this, but he justified himself by saying that he was still in the process of training. He was informed that gold rankers could summon an unlimited number of medium-strength creatures without much effort. After explaining, Akira came to the conclusion that summoning mid-level creatures wasn't an easy task. The guy asked if there were any magicians who could summon advanced creatures, to which Elise responded with a laugh, considering it nonsense. You can't just make a contract with an advanced being who thinks people are stupid and insignificant. The summoned beast consumes mana, and if it is not enough, it becomes magically depleted after signing the contract. Gold summoners were considered platinum summoners, and the enemy team had 3 summoners. Akira heard this and felt that he had a chance. All of a sudden, Ani came running in, crying, looking for Mr. Alistair. Greta immediately found it suspicious that the summoner, so much praised by the princess, only had an iron rank and 70 mana points. Ancient books mention such cases. The problem occurred due to the fact that the mana pool was larger than expected. It is extremely unusual when the maximum value of the Electro Crown reaches a 4-digit number, because usually platinum ranks have mana hovering around 3,000 units. Akira's mana pool exceeded 10,000, forming a 5-digit number. Hidden within it was a power that could be described as destructive. Greta understood the young man's desire to hide his identity, since he did not want to be the object of obsessive attention. Alistair suddenly burst into Professor Maverick's office, urging her to follow him immediately. Both of Anthony's arms were broken, and his internal organs were badly damaged. Even with the use of healing magic, it would take at least 3 days to recover. Eliza asked to cancel the competition, explaining that the opponents attacked a member of their team, but the professor rejected her request. Ani sobbed, considering what was happening, a manifestation of extreme cruelty, and did not understand why their origin allowed them to commit such outrages while remaining unpunished. Anthony knew he wasn't going to win, but he kept his faith until the last second. He always settled that the main thing is not to lose heart and move forward no matter what. The young man explained his action as a return of duty for the kindness and selflessness shown by the princess towards them. Anya begged them to stop, so that Anthony would have at least some chance to perform properly tomorrow. On her knees, she begged for mercy, offering her services as a servant if only the young man would be released. But the girl realized that they were just waiting for this moment. His arm had been badly broken, and she couldn't understand why he'd been treated like this. Akira tried to pull himself together, realizing that it was impossible to give vent to feelings because he allowed that such a thing could happen. Anthony was suddenly awakened by a healing spell. Friends tried to help him lie down, but he assured them that he was fine. The guy explained that for his withdrawal from the competition, it was necessary to injure his legs, not his hands. Greta asked if this meant that he would be able to continue competing. In response, the boy only firmly and confidently confirmed this. Anthony asked if they could start what they planned right now. It was a real contract with the summoned creature, and Akira was lucky enough to be present, even though he wasn't in the best shape. Greta asked if Anthony was ready to hand over his wind genie immediately, and Ani tried to talk him out of it. The guy had only recently reached the silver rank, and he should have doubted his idea. Even with a favorable outcome of the contract, the summoned creature surpassed him in level, which threatened magical exhaustion. Anthony raised his hand to reveal the ring, an artifact called the Summoner's Pride, courtesy of the professor. Thanks to this artifact, the mana consumption for summoning a high-level creature was reduced by 30%. With it, he hoped to hold out until tomorrow and asked the professor to start. She also warned that her animals reflect her own essence. Greta began the task by emphasizing the complexity of the upcoming challenge. The summoning had begun, and Anthony was begging for Jin's favor, determined for the battle to come. Neither his magical power nor his emotional stability were perfect. Nevertheless, Anthony's ability to win Jin's over was amazing, and Greta was speechless. Alistair was also surprised, and Ani, full of tears of joy and relief, rushed to the young man. She quickly approached and began to beat him, calling him a fool. Akira had no idea how difficult and grueling the process of summoning a creature would be. Greta expressed her praise for a job done flawlessly, and announced that Anthony had been awarded the title of a mid-level summoner. In response, the young man thanked her, emphasizing that he owed his success to her because thanks to her, Jin was imbued with trust in people. Maverick cautioned by pointing out that a middle-class creature has appropriate mana requirements. Even with the Summoner's Pride ring, he would have teetered on the edge of completely draining his magic powers, but he was aware of this and was prepared for the challenges. The opening of the official Magic Academy competition was officially announced, and the entire academy gathered to witness the event. The audience was honored to meet the sorceress Pearl Bryce. The girl also noted that there was no need for such a formal address, given their joint work, but those present did not let up recognizing her genius. They expressed their great joy at being able to work with her, and expressed their hope that Pearl would not be disappointed in the outcome of today's battle. The girl replied that the outcome of the match is already known to her and she is only interested in how long the participants can hold out. She clarified that she was misinterpreted. Her true intention was to assess the endurance limit of the aristocrat team. The man tried to convey the idea that it is the noble team that has outstanding strength, emphasizing that they all came from abroad. Pearl, regardless of their status, saw them as just ordinary students. It expressed confidence in the triumph of the commoner team in the upcoming competition. The girl felt irritated and tired at the sight, which was not interesting given the presence of only one silver rank among their opponents. The second contestant was eager for an early conclusion and intended to be the first to speak in order to quickly resolve the situation. Demetrius appeared and asked to be given this opportunity. The girl mentally dubbed him a fan of making fun of the weaker ones. Alistair was in the lead, followed by Ani and Eliza, and Akira was assigned as a reserve player, with Anthony as the actual captain. Greta asked if the young man was offended by this, but he reacted calmly and expressed a desire to watch as many fights as possible and accumulate information. His concern was focused on Anthony, and noticing his unhealthy skin tone, he worried about his well-being. The young man had a plea. He knew that their chances of success were slim, but without trying, they definitely wouldn't make any progress. Anthony was convinced that if everyone showed valor in accepting this challenge, they would definitely find their way to triumph. Now it was their turn to show themselves, and their plans were to surprise the audience. The host invited representatives of the famous Magic Academy to the stage, ready to compete in the competition. Representatives of the people, Captain Akira Rainford, Iron Rank holder, and his deputy Anthony Green, Silver Rank, performed under the blue flag. The center position was taken by Eliza Regan, Bronze Rank, followed by Ani Breitling, also Bronze Rank, and in the vanguard was Alistair Fonwell with Bronze Rank. Under the red banner of the aristocracy were Captain Carius R. Grantchester, the Golden Magician, and his assistant Pranny Kreis, also of Gold Rank. In the vanguard was Demetrius Fonwell Silver Rank, second position was taken by Eloy Newman Gold Rank, and in the center was Patricia Tall Ryan, the owner of the Gold Rank. Metis learned that Akira wasn't in the vanguard, and assumed that he intended to learn the strengths of the opposing team. Ovell ironically stated that he was looking forward to seeing what her mysterious summoner would surprise them with. Princesa Jalala the princess wanted Akira to follow his beliefs, promising to take full responsibility. Seeing Anthony in such a sorry state, the young man felt pity. His exhausted appearance was painful. He said that despite all the efforts, the result is inevitable, and Ani will return to pour drinks in the pub. Akira found him to be a real villain, and as much as it annoyed him, he had to take a proper look at the situation. Pranny Kreis saw the certainty of victory in the eyes of her enemies, and when she saw Paul Bryce, she couldn't believe her eyes. She turned to the sorceress, asking if she had arrived to teach, and she confirmed it. Demetrius also welcomed her, expressed the honor of meeting Prol, and announced his intention to show the commoners what the aristocracy is. The assistant captain added that she was unlucky to be in the vanguard, emphasizing that the young man gets all the best. She suggested that Demetrius switch places, but he refused. Prol turned to the nobles. The girl reassured them by promising that everyone would have a chance to prove themselves. Akira was struck by the magnificence of what was happening, noticing the meticulous preparation for the event. Elise, in turn, was trying to control her excitement. The competition was opened by a duel between Demetrius and Alistair. Ovell felt sad as she watched an aristocrat who pretended to be one of the commoners, thinking that he felt uncomfortable among the nobles. Pranny reminded that the desire to please the princess should not serve as an excuse for humiliating your own dignity. Demetrius was tired of voices denouncing his brother and considering him a disgrace to the family. He decided to put an end to it. Without waiting long, Alistair charged, ripping his clothes to demonstrate his power. To stop its onslaught, Demetrius resorted to magic, unleashing a series of fiery attacks on the enemy. The youth was surprised by Alistair's speed of movement. It demanded a fair fight without using magic. The guy was already unstoppable and approached his younger brother. Those present were shocked to see in his actions a tackle-style capture. With this move, Alistair forcefully pushed Demetrius into the ground and pinned him down with his body. For a brief moment, there was a deceptive lull, as if the battle was over. Prol believed that Alistair had resorted to a dishonest trick. Sympathy filled Demetrius. His eyes watered, and he was about to bring the force of the earth down on his opponent's fist. The young man believed that it was too early for his older brother to use the power of the earth in an attack, and this conviction gave him confidence. He wanted the wrath of the earth to be unleashed on the enemy, and challenged Alistair to avoid the true magic. The young man expected a rockfall from above. The others shouted in panic about the need to build a barrier, but Prol noticed that the attack was directed in the other direction. While Alistair was desperately trying to defend from the front and top, the blow landed from the bottom, where he didn't expect an attack at all. Prol realized that the young man was not yet able to sense the flow of mana. Greta suddenly asked if Alistair had won. Greta, the powerful black witch, was known as the strongest necromancer from the east. Alistair was carefully placed on a stretcher and immediately sent to the medical center. The lower jaw and teeth were badly damaged. Elise couldn't understand how anyone could be so cruel to their own brother. In agonizing pain, Alistair explained his desire to help, expressed regret for his helplessness, and asked for forgiveness from his comrades. Ani, worried about his condition, begged him to be quiet, while Anthony asked everyone to move away to make some space. Just as Akira had suspected, the enemies were clearly overdoing it. During the battle with Demetrius, Anya's clothes were torn. The scoffing young man said that he would be especially nice to her, and Pranny smiled as she realized that he was gradually tearing her clothes. The guys also understood this and considered it inhumane. Demetrius knew a lot of different spells, but Prol didn't think they were much use. Having the gifts of fire, earth, and air at the same time was extremely rare, and most likely the young man was just using attributes. This was a clear example of the frivolous approach when bragging about the number of spells, without paying due attention to the development of innate gift. The land of Storheim was a land of heroes, like the land of swords served by the mighty house of heroes Mayan. It was in this country that magic began to develop, and therefore an enemy arose against which the power of heroes alone was not enough. The undead of Odera are great evils that instantly recover from physical attacks and multiply endlessly, stealing life. It all started with the tragic death of Sword Mayan 14 years ago. Despite his heroic act, the rescue of his wife turned out to be a defeat for everyone. The key factor was the ignorance that otters can only be wounded by magic, and their numbers are increased by absorbing life force. The main difficulty was the ineffectiveness of weak magic against them, which was confirmed by the warriors who arrived from Pennsylvania. Smrtelne rane oderam, only powerful spells of a certain element, or attacks from summoned creatures of advanced rank could cause fatal wounds to oders. Fighting them required training for mages, who were proficient in high-level magic, and those who were able to summon advanced-level creatures. If there was a person who combined both of these skills, they could be considered the savior of the world. Demetrius wanted Annie to cry and beg for forgiveness, thinking that she was afraid of being naked in public. In response, the girl said that if he wants to see her in this form, he should directly and openly ask for it. Earlier, Annie received an offer to reveal her magical talent at the academy, although she did not know about the dormant gift in her. Simple payments for living expenses and a scholarship provided during her studies became a strong argument in favor of admission. If she successfully obtained the master's degree, she would have secured her family and changed her fate, but she was immediately given to understand that the path to this would be thorny. Students from noble families, in addition to the innate gift, improved their skills by going abroad to purchase rare magic ingredients and potions. This directly affected their success, and Ani realized that diligence alone was not enough to achieve success. But she did not give up and continued to move forward, supported by her loyal comrades, because these simple but such dear friends were always there. Ani managed to reach such heights and not lose herself. She realized that the most valuable thing the academy had given her was not her magic skills or the prospects for a successful career. The most important thing was the companions she had found in the academy. Ani was ready to continue fighting if Demetrius was planning to bully her friends, even though he had already made up his mind to destroy her. They exchanged magic strikes, and apparently their energies collided. Prol was surprised to think that she had a chance. With her magic, she unleashed a whirlwind of fierce flames called Supreme Bruise on him. The team was shocked to see the opponents collide using identical spells. Prol noted that Ani was the first to use the spell enhanced by her flame gift, suggesting that she had a chance of defeating Demetrius. However, something didn't add up, namely that the guy had too much magic energy for the silver rank. Probably before the fight he applied a buff that increases the mana reserve, which even Ani herself felt. Demetrius had consumed 3 half-century-old mandrake sprouts and was overflowing, with mana, gleefully inquiring about the girl's well-being. Anthony was extremely concerned for her, while Prol was aware of the gravity of the situation, even though Ani was indeed a master of fire magic. Ani felt a lack of mana, and couldn't resist Demetrius any longer after missing a punch. "Say, don't gud." The young man towered over her and said that if she had been obedient from the start, she would have been spared suffering. He humiliated her by calling her a pathetic and dirty commoner. Ani knew that she was superior to him in the element of fire, but she lost due to lack of mana, and next time she was sure of her victory. Prol shared this view and agreed wholeheartedly with it. Right after the fight was over, her group rushed towards the girl. Anthony expressed concern about her well-being, to which she replied that she had only exhausted her magical powers. The young man, in turn, praised her stamina. Pranny hastily offered Demetrius a shift, noticing signs of fatigue, but he declined the offer. He was filled with an unbridled desire to exterminate all the enemies. He wanted to crush them like insignificant insects. Eliza had been warned in advance about the young man's strange behavior and was strongly advised to be careful not to take on impossible tasks. The girl replied that the warning was not necessary, as she is smart enough not to try to do the impossible. Eliza dreamed of fame. She dreamed of shining on stage in the role of a delightful diva. Art was her vocation. She never aspired to magi, and after entering the academy, she did not make any effort in this field. The path of a magician was imposed on her by the state, and now she found herself participating in a competition in which, in her opinion, she had no chance of winning. Demetrius had insisted on stopping this battle because the outcome was obvious, and her stubbornness was infuriating. The young man asked Eliza if she really intended to fight to the bitter end. Anthony remembered how earlier the girl preferred to keep a low profile and constantly expressed dissatisfaction. Now her recent words sounded especially relevant. He tried to convince her that it was enough to remind her that Elisa's mana was almost gone, and that it was time to admit defeat. Demetrius said he was ready to let her go if she retreated, and he saw her comrades begging her to surrender. If she decided to stay, he was going to make it impossible for her to move, but Elise only chuckled at his nervousness. She believed that his supply of magical energy had run out, and these words provoked the anger of Demetrius, who began to insult her by calling her useless. The girl fired a crystal projectile, and the guy responded click-a-me with earthquake fangs, and their attacks clashed in a fierce confrontation. Pranny was surprised that Elise still had the strength to resist. The mage sensed that Demetrius was somehow manipulating his mana. If she had protested, she would have been told that everything was within his abilities. Elise didn't know what she was still holding on to. She couldn't withstand his onslaught and took the blow. Seeing this, his teammates were horrified, and Demetrius calmly approached the defeated opponent. Nasmichais? He scoffed and said that the girl had ruffled his nerves by calling her an upstart of low birth. Clinging to her hair, he demanded to admit defeat, claiming that all her tricks were over. After hearing about the need to enter the Magic Academy, she realized that she would have to say goodbye to the music school. My father explained that it was the king's will and asked me to show him respect and just finish my training. In those years, Eliza was an extremely selfish and narcissistic person. She wanted to do everything she could to be expelled immediately. However, she met people whose lives were much harder than hers, but they were still great personalities. It was then that she first felt how great it was to give others joy. Grabbing Demetrius by the hand, Eliza confessed that she was selfish and took all the benefits for granted. Despite all the opportunities she was given, she didn't put in any effort, thinking only of herself. So now she couldn't give up, because she needed to repay her friends for their care. She planned to force him to use as much of his dirty power as possible to help Anthony. Enraged, Elise gathered all her strength and unleashed a devastating mana drain.